What's up, everybody? Got the wrong setting there right off the bat here on StreamYard. We're off to a roaring start already, as you can see. Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast here on Pub Sports Radio, powered by Superbook Sports. My name is Clint. I am coming off of another monumentous ass kicking, except in this case, it was not me kicking my bookie's ass. It was the other way around. You know, the week before last, I had my monstrous 19-unit win, set the bar for the best podcast win since inception, and then immediately turned around and gave back about 9 units, even though I said on last week's show that I wasn't going to do that. I specifically said that I wasn't going to do that, but I did it anyway. So thank you all for tuning in here on Monday. I appreciate those of you all lining up to get back in here with me. Hey, swings and gambling, folks. That's what we do. Ups and downs. We know it's part of the game. I need to have just a little bit better self-control, especially on those weeks that we can, preemptively identify that are a little bit sketchy. I know we can do a little better in those types of situations, and I just kind of lost my mind there. So we're going to do our very best to bring Thanos back. If you've been following me on Twitter, I've been full villain mode until I got back in the black. It worked out. We went back. Usually I like to go with the hammer theme. We like to be Thor, but I immediately pissed away the money. So I guess we got to go straight back to villain mode, right? We got to go back to being Thanos to get that cash back. So let's go ahead and welcome in everybody. How we doing this evening? Billy, what is up? We got Jonathan, Grateful Dude, Evan L, Chris Norm, Bufo on the beat. Mike Imperial. We've got my guy Michael Lunday in the house. Il Max, Sean V. I love Clinty Bay with the best name in the chat. And then we've got Inigo Condone. I apologize with the little squiggly over your name there. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, but trying to give you your shout out anyway. The Gaming Wolf 87 Hype MMA in the house this evening. Nick Sizzin, how's everybody doing? Thank you all so much for jumping in here and hanging out with me this evening. Now the chat is up and pumping. We've already got 70 live viewers, so I know there's more of you that deserve your shout out, but unfortunately the chat has defeated me. There's too many of you in here working, so you all know who you are. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Hey, real quick, one thing before we kick the show off here. I've been promising the last couple of weeks, there's a few of you out there that like to support me, that send in, tips and donations, things like that, just because either A, you like the show, or if B, you do end up tailing with me and we have those, crazy good nights or hit the 13, 14 to 1 props and shit like that. Some of you toss a little something my way, and you all are more than appreciated. You have no idea the difference that kind of a thing makes for me. And I'm behind on my shout outs. So this list is going to sound long, but that's because I'm like 6 months behind on this shit. You all deserve your moment in the sun. Matthew Grudel, Christopher Charles, Charlie Aldenberg, Jesus Obreon. We've got Ryan Krignjak. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I'm sorry, Ryan. Isaac Weiss, Josh Guerin. We've got Alex Espinoza, Austin Giesland, David Kneznovic, that's got to be Russian, Jordan Hyland, Peter Bacassi, Daniel Kraus, Johnny Odinas, David Fink, Robert Cerrone, Andres Gomba. We've got John, sorry about that, I'm going too fast. John Rosen, Phil Lands, Renee. We've got Ryan Grant, Scott Gearling. We've got my guy Michael Lunday, and of course Daniel Jenkins. Michael Lunday and Daniel are two of the OGs that are always around and always sending me a little something with nice little notes attached to the donations and shit that they send in. So you two guys, I always leave you for last. Love the hell out of you. Everybody else, definitely appreciate the support. You guys are definitely the real ones. Let's go ahead and kick this bad boy off into high gear. I've got a guest for you guys, a solid guest, one of my favorite guests, somebody who hasn't been on the show in a long time, but one of the OGs, DFS by the numbers. Brady, what's up, buddy? How you doing today?
What's up, dude? Feels like I was just on pub last night, right?
Yeah, right. Your boy Uncle Weezy already tuning in here in the chat. That's gotta love that squad. You guys kick it on Sunday nights, breaking down these cards. We gotta love it. But I can't not have you guys on the show. We were talking about it backstage beforehand. Like, I know you guys just did a show last night. but you're OG guests of the Die Hard MMA podcast. What am I supposed to do? Just never have you guys on because you had a show last night?
Exactly. And I love coming on, and I love this card as well. And I have a couple hot takes, and I'm curious to see if we line up on them.
Hell yeah, dude. That's what makes it fun. The hot takes and the tinfoil hat reads. That is where it's at. Dude, let's kick the show off proper. First off, everybody knows this is Pub Sports Radio. Do me a favor, smash that like button. And if you've been living under a rock and you don't know, we recently picked up a new sponsor. Superbook Sports is hanging out with us here. And I do want to go ahead and just show off their shiny website, especially if you're in Arizona. They're brand new to the area. Make sure you sign up over here at Superbook Sports. They've got these cool little things like futures for the MMA champions and shit like that for each division. Gotta love fun little bets like that you can add to your normal gambling routine. First fight of the night, man. Let's go ahead and dive straight on into this bad boy. We have got Jai Herbert taking on Ilia Topuria in a fight that this is one of those ones I kind of never saw coming, man. You know, Ilia Topuria coming up a weight class for this fight. You know, it's a spot where I don't know what to make of Jai Herbert, if I'm being honest with you, Brady. He's a guy that I was super high on when he came into the UFC. He's 11-3, nice, tall, and long, good footwork, plays well at range. He's got fast hands. He's got a stiff right hand that I really like the look of. He steps on the gas when his opponents are hurt, but he showed some really bad takedown defense, especially for a guy who trains with Leon Edwards. He had no answer for Moicano's grappling in that last fight. And that's just a massive concern when you're going up against the undefeated Georgian warrior, Ilia Topuria, who's got nothing but a strong, dynamic, offensive wrestling game. Kid's got dynamite in his hands too. And I'll never forgive Jai Herbert for that first UFC debut knockout loss, because he was on cruise control to win that fight for me and then got clubbed over the head and put unconscious. I worry about his chin. And, you know, the boxing of Ilia Topuria, we've seen the power he brings to the table. He's a BJJ black belt. I think my only concern is Ilia moving up to 155. I don't know that Jai is the guy we've got to be scared of, though, because someone who's maybe thicker, more powerful, more, you know, muscular, that can defend some of those takedowns of Ilia, I think that'll give him some problems at 155. But someone who's tall and skinny like Jai, I still just think he's going to end up on his back. This is another big, you know, not another, I guess it's first fight of the night here, but first big favorite on the card, man. What do you think about Jai Herbert, Ilia Topuria?
Yeah, I mean, you have some really valid concerns, and not only is Topuria coming up a weight class, he is coming in on short notice. It was actually supposed to be Jai Herbert going against Mike Davis, which would have been an absolute banger, and this fight is a banger as well. But not only is this going to be his very first fight at 155, he's going to be at a massive height and reach disadvantage, 8-inch reach disadvantage, and then also a massive 6-inch height disadvantage. But, you know, like you said, I mean, what Jai Herbert struggles with is, well, a couple of things. The first thing is that chin. I mean, the chin is very, very questionable. The second thing is that 30% takedown defense thus far in 3 fights. We saw Moicano able to take him down 5 times, Trinaldo able to take him down 2 times. And I just did not like what I saw in terms of, you know, how he looked off his back against Moicano. Moicano was able to get into dominant positions very easily. And Moicano took a little bit longer than I expected to finish him. But I guess I forgot how good the ground game of Topuria is, because he's going out there and starching Ryan Hall and Damon Jackson. I went back and watched Topuria's ground game. This guy's ground game is legit black belt in BJJ. He's dangerous, you know, multiple different chokes on his record. And I think he takes down Herbert and submits him in the first round. If he decides, hey, I'm going to test my striking against Jai Herbert, I have 2 knockouts in a row, I want to go knock out Jai Herbert. If he does that, that's going to give Herbert a path to victory. Herbert hits very, very hard. This guy's power is legit. He's long, he's rangy, and I think he will be the better striker. With that said, I think Topuria could come in and knock him out, but just why not take him down and submit him? So, yeah, I do like Topuria here quite a bit. He's going to be a very popular parlay piece, but he is around like minus 375. I see minus 450 on DraftKings now. I'm probably going to stay away, but as far as a parlay piece goes, I don't think it's the worst option in the world.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. This is a spot that I think the chalk is rightfully so. You know, we've seen nothing that we should question from Ilia Topuria. He doesn't really have gas tank issues. We're not worried about his chin. And this is kind of one of those hand-picked opponent spots. Usually when they take these short notice fights, it's because they think it's somebody beatable. It's because they think it's someone who they can get in there and style on. And based on what we saw from the grappling of Jai Herbert, I don't think we can dispute that. Ilia should just be able to maul him on the floor. We got minus 450 right now for Ilia Topuria, plus 340 to come back if you like the underdog Jai Herbert. And yeah, man, kind of like you mentioned, that really, it just seems like a puncher's chance type of line, don't you think? He's got a shot to knock him out, but if he doesn't do that, is he winning a decision? Is he going to submit him? I don't think so.
Yeah, probably a knockout or bust. So maybe if people like Herbert, the knockout prop's probably gonna be really juicy. It's just he'd be the first one to either beat Topuria and then knock him out as well.
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm kind of with the chat here. Most of them are going ahead and, sticking in here Topuria by sub. I agree. That's, I see him taking him down and mauling him on the floor, eventually getting a good position and choking him out.
I agree as well.
All right, we like that. Hey, Roop in the chat right here asking if the Coyotes win tonight. Hey, we did some damage making up for the horrific UFC weekend I had yesterday. We did some real good work in the NHL. So y'all know the degenerate action I like to play. I didn't bet the Coyotes money line tonight, folks. I'm a little nervous. Jacob Chikrin, one of our best defensive players, is out with an injury. They're on a long road trip. The Senators are scrappy. So I just went over 6. If you want to play DGen hockey with me, we're going over 6 this evening. That's the move. All right. Got to get that out of the way for my hockey lovers here in the chat. Next fight we got to talk about here is Nathaniel Wood taking on Vince Morales. And this is an absolute banger, Brady. I mean, not that the first fight wasn't an absolute banger, because the majority of this card is banger fights. This is going to be a real fun event, but this one I am personally super stoked on. Nathaniel Wood is 17-5. Vince Morales is 11-5. Wood keeps a high pace. He's got strong boxing skills. He mixes in those leg kicks really well. He's got a nice lead left hook that he likes to use. Good gas tank, sneaky submissions. That club and sub is kind of his thing. He just kind of melts people on the feet. When they get tired, he turns up, and then they give up the neck, the back, something like that. He's got lots of round 2 and round 3 finishes. He's coming off an absolute war with Kenny, and that was something that, showed what he might be able to do against some of the higher level competitors in this weight class. Arguably a step down in competition, and he hasn't fought since 2020. One thing I noticed about him, extremely elusive. He is hard to hit sometimes on the feet when he is on point. He's got a 75% takedown defense rating, so if he doesn't want it on the ground, usually it's not going to the ground. Vince Morales, he's training over at Syndicate MMA, coming off that big win over Smolka. He's got a nice, long, stiff jab. He's one of those ones that really explodes into that forward jab. He fights well, moving backwards. He does a good job of blitzing in. He rips the body of his opponents. That's something I always like to look for, banking that damage for later rounds. And he's got big power, man. When he decides to sit down, he's one of those guys that can go kind of 30%, 30%, 30%, and then he sits on a hook at like 70, 80%, and that's what just flats people out. He's incredibly durable. 2 losses by submission, though, which is a little concerning. Like I mentioned, Nathaniel Wood always looks for that late choke. And then he had no answer for the leg kicks of Gutierrez when he fought him. That was that leg kick TKO win that's so infamous among us, all of us sports bettors here. Vince Morales is going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And he's also a decent sized underdog. You got minus 280, minus 300 on Nathaniel Wood. You can get plus 230, plus 235, somewhere in that ballpark on Vince Morales. What are you doing here, Brady? How do you like this one?
Yeah, so Morales is coming in on somewhat short notice. I know Wood was supposed to fight Ludovic Shalinian, so that is something to note, but I just think in this fight, Wood has him covered everywhere. I really like the output of Wood. This guy's landing over 6 significant strikes per minute, which is crazy. I think he'll be the higher volume fighter in this fight, and you could just go back and take a look at the past couple Wood fights. In his 3-round fight against Casey Kenny, the dude lands 136 strikes against him. Against John Castaneda, which that win is aging very well. He landed 131. I just don't think Morales, especially on short notice, can keep up with that pace. And then on top of that, I think Wood, if he does not like how it's going on the feet, I think he could just take down Vince Morales, who has a 50% takedown defense thus far. I think 6 or 7 fights, including Contender Series. And I really did not like what I saw when Domingo Pilarte took down Morales on the Contender Series in that second round. He took him down early on in the second round, took his back, and then choked him out shortly after. So I think Wood has a legit path to a submission here. With that said, although I do like Wood on the feet, I do like Wood on the mat, and I do like Wood to probably win by sub here. Morales has a ton of power, and the power was not really translating to the UFC. He did not have a knockout up until his last fight against Luis Smolka, but you take a look outside the UFC, he's knocking a ton of guys out. He did knock down Benito Lopez as well. So the power is a concern, and the reason it's a concern is because I'm concerned about the durability of Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood did get knocked out by John Dodson. Wood has been knocked out outside of the UFC as well. And then if you remember in his debut against Johnny Eduardo was like a couple seconds away from finishing him in the first round. He rallied back and submitted Eduardo, but that wasn't a really good look to me. So I think the clear minute winner here, whether it's on the feet or on the mat, is going to be Wood. But the power of Morales is no joke. But I got to go Wood here. I think he has more paths to victory. I think on the feet, he should have him covered. On the mat, especially if he gets it down to the mat, I think he could sub him. Outside of Morales landing a big shot, I think Wood probably cruises here, probably the rightful favorite. And again, Morales is coming in on short notice. How prepared is he going to be? All that good stuff. So I do like Wood again, and I do think he's a valid parlay piece.
I hear you, man. Thank you very much, Dale, for the kind words here for both of us moving forward. Yeah, man, I completely agree with everything that you just said. And I think the durability of Wood is something that really has to be addressed. Brady, I'm going to have some knockout prop here for Vince Morales, like, period. I don't know if it's going to be in one of my DGen parlays. I don't know if I'm just going to put a half unit on it straight. I will absolutely have some Morales by KO. I really want to see what these guys look sizing up next to each other. I want to see them face off and see how big one or the other is. Wood is the type of guy that after a 2-year layoff, I wouldn't expect it to be a negative. I'd expect it to be a positive. I would think that he's at that ripe age where he can make some serious improvements. And the fact that he's already as good and skilled as he is, that kind of a layoff, I think, can only benefit him. However, you can't deny the angle of activity. You know, you've got a guy in Morales who's been fighting, who's been getting better, who's doing it right in front of us, trial by fire. And coming off that big knockout win, he's going to be very, very confident in himself, and especially in that power. One thing I noticed, Brady, is that Nathaniel Wood, for as elusive as he is, eats a lot of left hooks. And I mean a lot. Like, you look at the Dodson fight, that's the one that dropped him, was that left hook. You look at the Castaneda fight. Castaneda couldn't quite put him down, but he hit him with like 5 or 6 really big shots. There are times where it's just right there for the taking, and that is the bread and butter of my guy Vince Morales here in this spot. That's his best punch. So I just, this is one of those ones where, like, I don't have my crystal ball here with me, but if I could pull it out and set it right here in front of you, if he's going to go down, you know, his weakness is the other guy's best shot. So I kind of like the dog here, if I'm being honest. If you're looking for a bed shitter of the week, I feel like Nathaniel Wood might be your huckleberry. I'm high on Vince. I think Vince has some serious upside. And while I think you're right, the minute winner in this fight is going to be Nathaniel Wood, I do think that Vince Morales can absolutely win this fight. So I'm kind of watching this line super closely. I'm not sure if I want to jump in on the dog straight money line or if I just want to play that KO prop or something like that, get fun with it. But I think I'm looking dog side on this one, man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's worth a shot. I'm not parlaying up Wood this week, but yeah, like I said, I think he'll be the minute winner. But man, you mentioned it. Wood is hittable. He absorbs over 4 strikes, 53% strike and defense. And I know we haven't seen it a ton, but Morales, he hits hard. We saw it in his last fight against Smolka. So I see the inside the distance for Morales as of now is plus 480. The knockout prop might be around plus 600. I think that could be a good way to look at the outside. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, man, I'll take plus 600 on something like that all day. And honestly, this might just be a violence bet spot, because if Vince Morales does land a couple of big shots, I know a lot of people think, you know, Wood by decision, that kind of thing. But with that submission ability, Wood hits hard too. Let's not throw that out the window. Wood hits hard too. So the club and sub is there. He could get the TKO. You know, once this is one of those fights, I feel like that once it amps up, there's no going back. So if one of these guys gets hurt or rocked in like the first or the second round, then it's on at that point. Somebody's finishing. On top of that, Vince Morales coming in on short notice. You could have potential gas tank issues. All this leads me to potentially just betting on violence.
Yeah, I think the under 2.5 is like plus 120. I don't hate that.
Good stuff, Brady. All right. So we're kind of on opposite sides on the side there on that one, but definitely arguments to be had both ways. Next fight. You know what? First off, let me go ahead and just shout the chat out. We got 189 live viewers hanging out with us. So thank you all so much for being here on Pub Sports Radio with us. make sure you hit that like button for us. That's the best way that you can support us and keep the content coming to you free. Next fight up, Elise Reed taking on Cory McKenna. Women's MMA fight here, Brady. Super bargain bin, low level women's MMA fight here on this one. It does not get much lower than this. What we've got is Cory McKenna, 6-1, training out of Team Alpha Male. She's got decently solid wrestling. She's training with, Sarah McMahon. So you can only expect that grappling to just get better and better and better. But geez, she was a punching bag on the feet against Hansen in her last fight. When she gets on top control, she's good to go. She gives up some bad positions from bottom, though. Her defensive grappling is nowhere near her offensive grappling. She had a good late reversal in that fight that basically, I think, stole the fight for her. She was well on her way to losing that third round until she hit that reversal. Now, her opponent coming in here, Elise Reed, 4-1. She's coming off getting, the UFC's version of gang jumped in by Sijara Eubanks. Took that short notice fight up a weight class. She's a natural, 115 pounder. So now she's dropping back down to her normal weight class. She's very aggressive striking, man. She likes to walk forward, blitz attacks right down the pipe, lots of straight punches. She's got some decent power on her. I mean, I know it's hard to rate the regional scene for women's MMA because it's just so bad, but she's got a couple TKO wins, took out a couple soccer moms on the feet. You can't, deny that. And she's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage here in this spot. We've got a minus 250 price tag on Cory McKenna with the plus 200 underdog coming on Elise Reed. Man, I don't know if it's a dog or pass spot, but just how do you get to laying minus 250 on Cory McKenna, Brady? What are you doing here?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm really high on McKenna in this spot, and I'm really high on her ceiling. And I did bet McKenna about a week and a half ago at minus 200. And yeah, the line has moved a lot. And the reason I do like McKenna, for one, like you mentioned, she's very young, 22 years old. The last time we saw her fight was about a year and 3 months ago when she was 21. And you also mentioned, she's training at Team Alpha Male. And not only that, you go to her Instagram. Look at who she's training with. Fighters like Yan Xiaonan, fighters like Verna Jandaroba, fighters like Sarah McMahon, fighters like Macy Barber. She's training with some of the best women fighters in the world. And I think that's going to help a very young fighter in McKenna. So when I looked into this fight, I knew that Reed, she did struggle with, the grappling, and especially in her last fight, you can kind of throw that out the window against Eubanks. It was clear that Eubanks was going to go through and dominate her and finish her. But I wanted to look and see how good is McKenna's wrestling, because we don't see it a ton in the Contender Series, and we don't see it a ton in her debut against Kay Hansen. But I went and watched some fights from McKenna outside the UFC when she was like 18, 19 years old. And I was actually, really impressed. I was actually surprised. I was probably expecting maybe the worst of it. And she was like picking up fighters and slamming them at 18, 19 years old. Very good timing on her takedowns. And again, this is 18, 19 years old. She's now 22. She's been training at a great camp in Team Alpha Male. So I think she's only going to get better. Elise Reed, she probably has a striking advantage here. She's going to have a 3.5-inch reach advantage. And like you mentioned, she does it pretty hard for the division as well. She's small for the division, but as is Cory McKenna. I think on the feet, it's probably competitive, slight advantage Reed, but man, if McKenna gets this fight down to the mat, I think it's going to be over shortly after. I do not like what I see from Reed in terms of her ground game. She's been taken down multiple times, not just inside the UFC with Eubanks, but even outside the UFC. I've seen her put in really bad spots. She just recently, a couple years ago, got her white belt, very unexperienced in terms of the BJJ, whereas, McKenna, that's her bread and butter. She's a legit purple belt, and we see it. She's fought against, good ground fighters like a Kay Hansen and succeeded. She's fought against, Vanessa Demopoulos, who's very dangerous from her guard, and she was in her guard pretty much the whole fight and was, dominating her in the Contender Series as well. So, yeah, I'm really high on McKenna. I know these spots have got me in trouble in the past, being very high on a women's MMA fight, especially at chalk. But man, I thought the minus 200 was worth the shot there. Minus 250, it's getting up there, but I think McKenna submits Elise Reed. I'm going to be looking for the submission prop. I just don't think Reed has much of a chance here unless she can stuff the takedowns, but I just don't see it. I think McKenna is going to come in. We're going to see the best version yet. Training with Sarah McMahon, that's got to help the wrestling, right? So give me McKenna, submission. I think that submission prop is going to be pretty juicy as well.
All right, there you go. I asked, how do you get to lay in minus 250? And that right there, folks, is how you get to lay in minus 250. And hey, for all those asking to call the orderlies, they're already in the house, man. Brady right here in the house with us. And plus, we got to get Wheezy in there
Let's
too.
go.
There you go. Calling the orderlies, betting low-level women's MMA, folks. Man, I am... Again, this is one of those spots where low-level women's MMA for me is like low-level heavyweights. I just always want to bet the underdog because I feel like I'm flipping a coin. If I'm being honest, Brady, I respect you and I love your takes on MMA, but I feel like everyone is banking on possible upgrades from Cory McKenna. And I get it. I get that. She's in a room full of killers. She should be learning from the best. She's training with Sarah McMahon. We can only expect upside from her. I can't bet her at minus 250 until I see it. Her last fight was awful. She made such big mistakes. I think there's a significant striking advantage for Elise Reed in this spot. And I also think that Elise Reed, you couldn't be lower on her stock because of how she got entered into the UFC fighting someone like Sarge. So, man, I can't possibly. This is a spot that McKenna probably is the right side. And she's absolutely got the higher ceiling. But this fight on Saturday, I don't know, man. There's some potential bed shit here, in my opinion, if she's not quite made that corner turn just yet.
Yeah, like I said, it's terrifying. Not only women's MMA in general, but laying chalk on it. But I do feel pretty confident. But yeah, if Reed can stuff the takedowns, keep it on the feet, but I don't know. I just don't see it.
I hear you, man. I hear you. And again, like I said, I totally get the angle. If she could come out and look like a minus 1,000 favorite this fight, training where she is, being the age she is, it absolutely could happen. So I'm not denying it whatsoever. Shout out my guy Leon Nestang in the chat, just showing up here. So I don't want to dig too much into the weeds on this one, man. We got a lot of fights to get to, so there's no point in wasting time arguing over a fight where there's a whole lot of defensible points and a whole lot of speculation being had. Hey, real quick, let's go ahead and take a break and hear a word from our sponsors. Except they moved the damn thing. There it is. Welcome back, degenerates, to the Die Hard MMA podcast, hosted by Pub Sports Radio and powered by the Superbook. If you all have joined me on my degenerate NHL action, we got 3 goals in the first period, baby. We're halfway there. Let's go. We're going to get that over tonight, I'm telling you. All right. Anyway, back to the fighting action. Fisticuffs time, except this time we're putting our singlets on. Next fight up, we got Mike Grundy taking on Makwan Amirkhani, Mr. Finland, Mr. Punchable Face, the second most punchable face in the game, second only to Yair Rodriguez. Man, this fight, Brady, I'll be honest with you. So we got an opening line of minus 135 on Grundy, right? And I started licking my lips. I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, oh, that's the smash spot of the week. That's the line that's just way too short this week. And then I went, you know what? I thought that about Jillian Robertson last week. I thought that was the easy money spot last week, and I laid the hammer, and we all saw how that turned out. So I pumped the brakes and I got into this thing. And the fact is, these guys are like mirrors of each other. they're both super high caliber wrestlers. Grundy, the Greco style, he's got the body locks. He can clinch and just body people to the mat, lift them above his head. He showed off some decent submission offense. He almost subbed Movsar Evloev. I don't know how to this day Movsar survived that choke. And then he's got that big right hand that he loads up on. He's got some serious power when he lets his hand go, but his striking is very, very meat and potatoes. Nothing to write home about. Now he's taking on Makwan Amirkhani, who's extremely similar. This guy has got a crazy good wrestling pedigree, good, strong double legs. He doesn't give up on that first effort. He likes to, drive, keep on pumping those legs, switch to a trip, something like that, gets people to the ground. I mean, he was absolutely dragging Murphy around the cage that last fight out, and then he got killed immediately in round 2 when he went in for a takedown. But Grundy doesn't have knees like that, man. Grundy's not going to be that kind of a dynamic striker. My only concern is it's that short turnaround thing after a bad KO loss. I mean, you go back and you watch that Murphy KO and, woof, dude, they cut to a commercial and they came back and they were like still massaging the dude's temples. They were like still trying to bring him around after that KO. That was a bad knockout. So coming back after like 5 months from that kind of a hit, I've got my questions about the durability of Makwan Amirkhani. If Grundy decides to come out and swing a hammer or two, it could just be over that quick. Like his chin could maybe not have recovered. But if this thing is grappling based, which, considering who we're talking about, it probably is going to be mostly a wrestling match or a pitter patter bad striking match when the grapplers decide they don't want to engage. I don't know if Grundy's ever going to hit him. And Makwan is the better boxer of the two. So the line is moved. A lot of people are piling in on Grundy. Now he's sitting about minus 160. I hit the wrong tab here. Let me pull this thing up. We have got Grundy sitting minus 150, minus 160 across the board right now, and money is just coming in his way. All of a sudden, I'm sitting here going, holy crap. Like, if they do the whole, we're both wrestlers, why don't we strike it out kind of thing? Unless Grundy lands a bomb, I actually think Makwan Amirkhani is the better striker of the two. And it could just be a bad decision that you really don't want to be on either side of, because you're going to have no idea who the judges want to score this for at the end, because neither of them really did anything. Talk to me, Brady. What are we looking at here in this spot?
Yeah, I know a lot of people were saying the McKenna Reed was the 1-800 gambler. This is my 1-800 gambler. I can't bet on this fight. I just can't bet on either fighter. Both guys have horrendous gas tanks. You have Mike Grundy, who has about 7.5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of gas. You have Amirkhani, who has probably like 5 minutes of gas. And like you said, this fight can play out so many different ways. Grundy can go for takedowns. Amirkhani can go for takedowns. They could just strike for 15 minutes. I mean, this is a fight I just want nothing to do with, especially when you take a look at the line. Yeah, I do slightly favor Grundy, but do I want to lay like minus 160 something on him? Not really. This is a stay away fight for me. Can't talk. I will pick Grundy to win because I do think he has the slightly better cardio. I did go back and watch a lot of his fights. I was surprised with his striking, especially in the Nathaniel Armani fight. He did show a ton of power. You mentioned the chin of Amirkhani. I'll pick Grundy to slightly edge out a greasy decision, but I'm not putting any money anywhere near this fight, Clint.
I'm right there with you, Brady. I'm also going to stick with my initial lean. I'm going to say Grundy wins the fight. I do think, especially, with that body lock, the way he just kind of rides on people, I think he's the physically stronger of the two guys. I think he reloads a little bit better. He doesn't gas out quite as hard as Makwan Amiri does. But damn, dude, I could absolutely see Makwan just kind of like jabbing him to death. You know what I mean? I could see him just kind of playing the long game and keeping him at range, stuff 1 or 2 takedowns and land just a couple of insignificant shots, and the judges giving him a greasy split. This is one that, like I said, I pulled out the hammer. I was ready to go. And then I went, holy shit. Like, do I really want 4 or 5 units on this guy when it's going to the judges' scorecards and we just have no clue what those cards are going to look like at the end? I don't think there's a clear enough edge here. So yeah, man, I'm going to pick Grundy right there with you, but I'm going to pass from a betting perspective. I think it's a pretty clear cut over, and Grundy KO is kind of the only way this thing finishes, in my opinion. What do you think about the total?
Yeah, what's the total at? I'd say over.
Okay. I mean, I got to assume it's a 2.5 with these two. I don't actually.
Yeah, it looks like it's minus 225 over 2.5, so they're all over it.
Yeah, for sure. That's too easy. We had to know that one was coming. All right. Let's move along. Save some time here on that one. Next fight up, Muhammad Mokaev, totally butchering that name. Mahmoud Muradov was the name that came to mind for some reason when I saw it. Taking on Cody Durden. And this is the fight that has got everybody buzzing. This kid, Muhammad, is supposed to be the next big thing, Brady. He is currently the youngest fighter on the UFC roster, making his UFC debut, just 21 years old. He's got a 23-fight amateur MMA career, 4-time amateur champion. Boy, does he have fast hands. He's one of these guys that is so good on the ground that he is reckless on the feet. He throws head kicks all the time because he's just not scared of people going after him. If you try to take him down, he will beat you in a scramble and turn that into offense of his own, even though he's on one leg at the time. He's got smashing top pressure. He blitzes his way into close range. He has short, powerful shots that he hits a lot of people with. I like everything I see about this kid. He seems to be legit, man. He's got solid rear naked choke attack, so if he gets on your back, you are in trouble. There's a lot of things to like about Muhammad. There's a lot of upside here. Cody Durden, 12-3-1. He's actually got pretty decent boxing. I'm not going to lie. He's a fast starter, though. He's one of these guys that doesn't really control his gas tank all the best. In his last fight against Aori Quileng, he came out way too hard early and then kind of barely scraped out, hanging on for dear life in that third round when he was death gassing. Barely got to the judges' scorecards and got that win there on that one. But, you know, he showed some good fight IQ. He went in for takedowns. He mixed his level changes up, did what he had to do to get the win. Once he's on your hips, this guy is relentless. Like, he does a good job of chain grappling. He's only got a 60% takedown defense, though. That's a little concerning. He's got 3 losses by submission if you count the one from his amateur career. This seems like a spot, Brady, where the UFC likes Muhammad and they're going, you know what? We got the perfect opponent for you. Let's get you in here against a guy who's going to bring it, and you're probably better than everywhere. Minus 350 on the debuting Muhammad, plus 280, plus 270 on Cody Durden. And man, Brady, this is just, it's not the Dana White Contender Series fade angle because obviously the kid didn't come off the Contender Series. But I got a real hard time laying minus 350 or minus 400 on a kid making his UFC debut at 21 years old. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hype on this guy, and that's why the line is where it's at. I mean, I'm with you. I heard everybody talking about him, and I wanted to see what the hype was all about. I go and watch this guy in a couple fights, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's why there's hype. I mean, this guy is good. You mentioned the amateur career, 23 fights, so he does have experience, and it's pretty crazy. He's only 21 years old. He is undefeated in terms of MMA as well. The guy's good, and he brings a lot of things that I like to the table. The first thing, and most importantly, especially in this matchup, is going to be the cardio. This guy can go a hard 15 minutes, no problem. I've seen him wrestle guys, consistently for 15 minutes. The fight's over. It looks like can go another 15. I don't think cardio is the issue here. I think the wrestling is top notch, very good. And on top of that, I think the control is very, very good as well. But yeah, there are some red flags. Of course, there will be. He's making his debut. He's very young. This is going to be his toughest test yet. And, I kind of like this spot for him. Do I like it at minus 350? I mean, not really, but I mean, Cody Durden has a lot of good things. It's just, he's very good for about a round. You mentioned the good striking, the really good wrestling. I believe he's a state champion in wrestling as well. The problem with Cody Durden is this is a guy that slows down in each and every fight that does leave the first round. And we can forgive him a little bit for the Gutierrez fight. He came in on short notice there, got that 10-8, but he did slow down in the second and third round. And we saw him slow down in his last fight against Archie Lang as well. And I don't know. I think competitive early on. I think it'll be very competitive early on. I just think as the fight goes on, Mokaev is going to be able to mix in takedowns. I think he's going to be the better wrestler. And most importantly for me, he's going to have the better gas tank. So how does Durden win this fight? I think it'll have to be an early finish, honestly. I just don't think Durden will be able to keep up with the pace that Mokaev is going to bring. And like I said, when Mokaev gets on top of guys, they're not getting up. So, yeah, I like Mokaev here. I'm buying into the hype. It's going to be a step up. It's going to be a really big step up. If Mokaev wins this fight, it'll probably be his best win yet. And honestly, you could say the same thing for Durden. I think Durden's best win as of now is Archie Lang, and he arguably lost that fight, at least in my opinion. So, yeah, it's a good fight, man. I like Mokaev, and I think stylistically he should get this done. But I will say early on, I think it could be sketchy, maybe a live betting situation even. But I think the cardio is key here in this fight.
Brady, again, I just couldn't agree with you more on this spot, man. Really, really couldn't. I mean, I don't want to lay that price tag on this kid, but at the same time, he checks all the boxes. And I personally also thought Durden won that last fight. I think that fight should have gone the other way. I scored it the other way. So I think he should kind of be coming off of an L here. And I talked about this last week against Pahea, where I really wanted to bet Bruno Silva. And I was like, but you know what? The UFC wants this guy to win. The UFC is trying to set something up here. And it's not often that you get that upset the apple cart type of spot. You know, when someone gets set up, when it's a matchup that's supposed to favor somebody, usually that guy wins. You know, the UFC is pretty good at getting the right guy to win. So I think I'm going to be with you on the kid. I don't know that I'm going to bet on him, but I do think that, you know, another spot where I think we can call that submission prop. I might be sticking that in a parlay somewhere or something, doing something crazy. I want to see what the number looks like when it comes out. But the fact that Durden likes to grapple, he's going to engage with this kid where he wants to fight. I do think this fight is going to be another one of those ones that starts fast and never slows down. So if that's the case, I think we can count on Durden gassing out. And if this thing gets into a grappling game when he's tired, I think we can count on a submission. So I'll probably be playing Mokaev by sub at some point, but that's kind of the only real interest that I have in playing this one. I'm not going to put a ton on this kid, even though I do think he gets the win.
Yeah, I think even like the third round sprinkle could be something to look at, because if Durden does slow down and Mokaev doesn't stop, this guy can go, looks like 5 rounds, no problem if he needs to.
You know, that's actually a great call by you, Brady. I love my round 3 sprinkles, and that could absolutely be a spot that's live here. Love going against the questionable gas tanks when we're talking round 3 sprinkles. That's the best part of that angle. All right, everybody, moving right along. We got a banger here of a women's MMA fight. Molly Meatball McCann taking on Luana Dread Carolina. And you know what? This was one of those cards, Brady. I'm sitting there on Sunday afternoon. I'm doing my tape study. I'm taking all my notes and stuff for the show. And I'm just kicking myself. I'm like, God, Saturday sucked so bad. I made so many bad calls. I'm stuck in a car for like 5 hours driving home, listening to the results roll in as I'm losing money. And I'm just absolutely miserable. I'm like, I don't want to sit here and research and watch more fights and keep it. And then I watched Luana's last fight, and it was like, oh my gosh, the dog call that I made with her upsetting the Lupi Godinez train. I was like, okay, all right, like that's the kind of pick me up you need every once in a while as a content creator, as a sports bettor, that you're like, you know, maybe I do make some good reads sometimes. That spot was so fun for me, man. I'm a huge fan of Luana Carolina. I think she's got so much just raw potential. I know a lot of people don't think very much of her, but I actually think that she's got some serious upside that people are sleeping on. She's 8-2, training out of Nova União, and big and strong for this division, man. That's kind of the big thing, is she's super tall. She's super long. She strikes long. She knows how to use that length. She's got a good Muay Thai base, nasty clinch knees and elbows when she gets in close, and pretty elusive on the feet too. Actually, she does a good job at range of, you know, kind of rolling back and avoiding punches and stuff like that. Solid defensive grappling. When she gets taken down, she actually knows how to use her guard, pins her opponent down, looks for the stand-ups. Sometimes she can get stuck there. So if you want to come with like a super heavy wrestling attack, that might be a problem against somebody who's, you know, bigger and stronger, that kind of thing. But I don't think we're going to run into that issue here with Molly, man. Meatball's been a slugger lately. I know she's got that wrestling in her back pocket, but she seems to have kind of forgotten about it. She likes to just come forward and swing heavies. She bulldozes her way in, high volume. She ran Ji Yoon Kim down and just swung for the fences in that last fight, man. She loads up and swings from the hip, big looping punches. And the big thing is McCann is hittable. She is just so there to be hit and really just relies on being tougher than her opponents. Her only losses to Jillian, Laura Procopio, and Talia Santos. So in my opinion, that's some pretty damn good company. So I think Molly McCann is one of those, you know, just on the outside looking in type of fighters. So it's a bit of a dangerous spot here for someone like Luana. But Luana Carolina is going to have a 7-inch reach advantage here in this spot, Brady. I mean, I know Molly just dealt with Ji Yoon Kim, who had a similar reach advantage on her, but I actually think that Luana Carolina is much more tactical when using that reach and her movement than someone like Kim is. And another note is that Carolina opened up a -140 favorite in this spot. And the money's been just pouring in on Molly McCann, which has essentially caused this line to even out and potentially start to looking like it might flip. Molly McCann is now minus 130. So yeah, she opened up a plus 110 underdog. She's now the minus 130 favorite. Comeback on Dread is plus 110. And I don't know if you deal with this, Brady, but anytime I have really good success with an underdog, I always want to go right back to the well. What are you doing on this one, man? Which side are you picking in this fight?
Yeah, I mean, first off, it's a really close fight, and I did bet on Molly McCann against Jeong Kim in her last fight. The reason I did bet on Molly in that fight, I actually did think that she'd go out there and would be able to get takedowns on a Jeong Kim who has like a 30% takedown defense, something crazy like that. Maybe it was even worse. Maybe it was like 25% takedown defense. And Molly McCann was not able to do that. And this is a fight where I absolutely don't think Molly McCann's going to come out here and complete takedowns against Carolina. Carolina has nearly a 90% takedown defense. A lot of that is skewed from stuffing a ton of takedowns against Lupe Godinez. But, in that fight, regardless of Lupe coming in on short notice up a weight class or not, her takedown defense looked much improved. And, Carolina, I don't know if you noticed this as well, but each time I see Carolina in there, she's looking like she leveled up each time. I mean, she's only 20 years old. She's getting better and better. Molly McCann, it's Molly McCann. She's going to come forward the entire fight. She's going to yell. She's going to scream. She's going to fight with her hands down at times. You mentioned she eats a lot of shots. My goodness, she does, absorbing nearly 5 strikes per minute. And Carolina is going to have a 7-inch reach advantage. Molly McCann, she's a fan favorite. I get it. She's exciting. She's going to have the home crowd behind her, but it's a close fight. You're gonna have Molly McCann coming forward, eating shots with her face, and you're gonna have Carolina, who's gonna have the advantage in the clinch. You're gonna have Carolina, who's gonna be the longer fighter, and I think Carolina, probably should win this fight. I think she's going to clearly outland Molly McCann. I think it's going to go to decision. Of course, we got to remember that we are in the home crowd of McCann, so that could be a factor. But yeah, I don't really get the line. I don't really get the line movement. I think it is because McCann's a fan favorite there. I think it should be a pick 'em, where honestly, I kind of agree more so with the opener. So, I mean, I'm not going to bet this fight, but if it gets out of hand, if money keeps coming in on McCann, I'm going to be forced to bet on Carolina because I do like Carolina myself, and I do think she's improving each and every time. So, the pick for me is Carolina, not betting it as of now, but if money keeps pouring in on McCann, then I'll probably have to bet on Carolina here. And it seems like every time McCann fights, she gets a lot of love behind her. I remember I bet, this is the worst bet I've had in my life, I bet Molly McCann against Tala Santos. I got like minus one.
Brady.
Yeah, I got like minus 110 on it, and she closed at like minus 200 against Tala Santos. So she's probably overvalued a lot more than she really should be. So yeah, Carolina for me is going to sit back and watch that line, but might be a potential bet later in the week.
My guy, I'm just Drew in the chat, Brady. Nailed exactly what you're talking about.
Oh.
Still got PTSD because I think I might have got even money on that one, man. That was one of those ones where we were all way ahead of the curve. Now, granted, Talia Santos has turned into some kind of monster that nobody saw coming. She was a completely different person than what her regional scene footage showed at that point. But yeah, we were all right there, eating that bad closing line value trophy that we got to hold up when it was, minus 175 meatball on fight day, and we all felt good. This feels like a very similar spot to me, Brady. This feels like a spot where the world is just piling in on Molly McCann. And I agree with the opener too. I do think that Luana should be the favored fighter. I do think that I agree with you when Luana Carolina has been showing nothing but crazy improvements every single time she comes out. And on top of that, you see the sneaky ground game starting to catch up. Like, she's training out of Nova Uniao. Those guys know how to grapple. She's got front chokes that she likes to hang on to. When she gets on your back, she's actually extremely dangerous. She hasn't quite gotten the choke there yet, but she's really been threatening with that a couple of different times. And I think one thing that we can really count on is I'm not expecting Molly McCann to keep her singlet on. She just isn't that type of a fighter. She wants to slug. And if you know that a fighter is going to come forward and look to bang, like, yeah, maybe she gets a takedown, but does she do it again in round 2? Does she go for the takedown again in round 3? Like, no, she wants to maul this girl. She wants to get in close on her. And even if she does, I don't think that she can have as much success as people expect her to. We saw Luana Carolina in her last fight. Now, granted, it was a smaller fighter coming up a weight class, so we know we have to factor that in. But the different positions that she was in, the way she framed off the face, the way she dug in for those underhooks, the way she got her hips back, like she's doing all the defenses correct for those takedowns. So if the takedowns are hard to come by, I don't really expect Molly McCann to be an awe and just keep on grinding on those takedowns. So yeah, I think we're going to get a striking match. And one thing I think that we're really going to see a lot here, Brady, is those knees up the middle. I think that with the way Molly McCann holds her hands low, the way she swings those wild winging punches, I think the Muay Thai plum, the clinch strikes, the knees are going to be right there all day for Luana Carolina. So this is a spot where I am planning on fading the market, man. It's a little terrifying, but I think that the opener was the right side. I think the hype, the hometown favorite here for the hometown girl, I think that's getting a lot of love. We do have to make mention that this is UFC London, folks. So we will be in Molly McCann's backyard. We could get robbed by the judges in a potentially close fight here in this kind of spot. But I kind of don't care. I think Luana Carolina is fully capable of winning this fight. And I don't know if I want to jump in now or if I want to be a little more patient. There's been some pushback, man. When this line has gotten to plus 115, it's dipped back down to plus 110 or plus 105. So I don't know if the line is going to get that much better. I want that dog money. I'm going to be on Luana Carolina for this weekend.
Yeah, there's a good chance I'll definitely join you there. And yeah, if people think Carolina sucks and maybe doesn't have any power, I mean, she was the only person to ever knock down Priscilla Ketchup-Beating. One does not knock down Priscilla Ketchup-Beating, and she did. Flush head kick, almost finished the zombie girl. So yeah, she's legit, man. She's getting better.
I hear you, man. I completely agree. My boy Danny Betts in the house and fireball and popcorn for him. Don't blame you for that one, man. Don't blame you for the fireball and popcorn. There's a good argument to be made that the orderly should be called on me for this one, but I think I got to do it. All right, everybody. Moving along, we got Jack Shore taking on Timur Valiev, and we go from one hometown favorite to the next. Jack Shore is the golden boy here this weekend. He is everybody's favorite underdog, and yes, you heard that correct. Jack Shore is the plus 125 underdog here in this spot. Timur Valiev, a minus 145 favorite. And unless I'm mistaken, this line opened up wider than that. Timur Valiev minus 175 was the opener. Money coming in on Jack Shore, plus 145 down to about plus 120 where it sits right about now. Like I mentioned, Jack Shore, undefeated, strong wrestling. Some people have made some comparisons to like George St. Pierre and stuff like that with this kid. He beats people up from inside their guard. No problem. Laying elbows when people have an open guard on him, really wrestling heavy game plan. And I'll be honest, man, there's not much else to say because no one's really been able to stop it. He averages 4.47 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 41% accuracy. That many takedowns with that high of an accuracy, I'm sorry, is just flat out impressive. He's got a 100% takedown defense rating. Granted, not many people are really trying to take him down. He will have a 4-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And his opponent, Timur Valiev, 18-2, definitely has the slight edge in the experience department. Very flowing active striking, lots of activity, mixes in lots of leg kicks, likes to kind of confuse his opponents on the feet. He went to war with Hani Barcelos, but man, he got dropped in round 2. And especially after, my guy Trevin Jones, we saw him just get edged out last week. He got absolutely flatlined by Trevin Jones after he thought he had him finished in round 1. But Timur Valiev is one of these guys that he's an ov at heart, man. He's got solid wrestling that he just kind of doesn't really choose to go to. He did get taken down by Magomedov in the PFL deep in round 3, but he popped up immediately in that fight. That was his last fight before he transitioned over to the UFC. And he's training with guys like Frankie Edgar and the Russians like Askar Askarov and stuff like that. He's got a 50% takedown defense rating. This is one of those numbers lie types of spots. If you look simply at his stats, 50% takedown defense rating against Jack Shore. Shit, this guy is getting taken down. It's on 2 takedowns. Trevin Jones got 1 of his 2 takedown attempts. And that was in the first round, actually. So that was after Timur Valiev had completely blown his load trying to put Trevin Jones away. So not exactly the takedown defense that you are thinking of. This is another potential fade the market spot for me, Brady. I think that Jack Shore is a superstar standout prospect. He's got a lot of upside. He absolutely probably has the higher ceiling. He's getting into the game earlier than someone like Valiev is. So definitely going the right direction. But shit, this is a big step up in competition. This is a big jump for such a young kid. And if he has trouble getting that grappling game going, I don't think he stands any shot against Timur Valiev on the feet. I just don't know if I want to stand in front of that kind of a prospect, man. What do you feel about this fight, Brady? How are you attacking this one?
Yeah, man. I saw Shore was at plus money like a week ago, and I'm like, what? Shore's plus money? I'm not used to that. I mean, I think the best line we could have got on Shore thus far in the UFC was against Hunter Azure. I think he was around like
Mhm.
minus 200. And then I went to look into the fight because I did have some interest in betting Shore. I'm a big Shore fan, as most people are. I mean, he's a
Mhm.
really, really hyped prospect. But Tamir's good. He's very good. I see why he is line the favorite. I see why there was a lot of hype on this guy coming into the UFC. He came in against Trevin Jones as like a minus 500, minus 600 favorite, and he looked it for the first round. He almost finished Jones as well. I thought it could have been stopped, and then he kind of gasses out a little bit after beating Jones up so bad, and then gets finished in the second round by Jones. The chin is 100% a concern for Timur Valiev going forward. And I say going forward because I don't think it's going to be an issue here. He did get dropped twice in his last fight. But yeah, like you mentioned, this is going to be a big step up in competition for Jack Shore. He makes his debut against Noeline Hernandez, who is 0-2 in the UFC. I don't think he's fighting the promotion anymore. Aaron Phillips is 0-3 in the UFC. He's still fighting in the promotion, I believe. And then he had a very close split decision against Hunter Azure, a fight that was a little bit greasier than I kind of expected. And in that fight, there were some things I did not like. Like Hunter Azure was able to reverse Jack Shore twice, and Hunter Azure was able even to get a couple of minutes of top control on Shore as well. And then he beats Ludovic Shalini. And so, I mean, this is like a huge step up. Timur Valiev's fought the much better competition. It's not even close. Valiev's fought good competition, not only in the UFC, but outside the UFC as well. I mean, his last loss was against Chris Gutierrez, and I think that fight could have probably went his way, honestly. So I get why there's hype on Shore 100%, and I get why there's some hype on Valiev. It did die down a little bit, it looks like, but I'm really struggling with this fight because I like Shore so much. He's going to come forward. He's going to try and get takedowns, and he probably does get takedowns. But I went and watched as many fights as I could of Valiev, and I wanted to see, how's this guy's takedown defense? How's this guy's get-up game? And he definitely can be taken down, but his get-up game is very good. And I've also seen fights where he was the one taking guys down. Like in the Martin Day fight, he went out there, controlled Day for nearly 12 and a half minutes in a 15-minute fight. It's a tough fight. It's a close fight. I see why money's coming in on Shore. I think the line's going to keep on closing, but I kind of like the Valiev side. I think in terms of the striking, Valiev's no joke. Like I forgot how good this guy's striking is. He has so many tools on the feet. Not only that, throws a ton of volume. I don't think Shore is going to hang on the feet. But yeah, Shore can make this close. Shore can, clinch up, take him down. He could do it for 3 rounds potentially, but I think, the moments are going to be one of the feet, and Valiev's going to win on the feet here, but it could really go either way. So I'm gonna take Valiev. I'm gonna wait and see where the line goes. I don't know if it'll flip, but I like the Valiev side. I think the Shore line kind of feels like the McKenna spot last week, where McKenna's extremely hyped. Everybody has to bet on him. And he's just not ready yet. I don't know if Shore's ready yet, but it's a tough fight, man.
Dude, it feels exactly like that to me. It feels exactly like the McKinney fight last week. Now, granted, not a short notice spot or anything like that, but that's exactly what it feels like, where the super hyped up prospect is deservedly so the underdog, and everyone's treating them like they're the lock of the night. Everyone's treating him like he's got this fight in the bag. It's a guarantee that he's going to win here, and it's just not that simple. Timur Valiev is a guy that everyone was hyped on, absolutely hyped on before he made it to the UFC. And yeah, his run started out a little rocky, but let's not forget how damn good this guy is when he's on point. So I kind of like the Timur side. I don't know how I'm going to attack this one from a betting perspective, if we're being completely honest. I might end up buying low on Timur Valiev if I get the opportunity. I'm just going to sit tight because I think it's going to be nothing but Jack Shore money in. It's a complete landslide as the week goes on. So it's going to be favorite or pass for me, and I don't know if I'm going to bet it at all. But I mean, if this line flips, dear God, like if I get Timur Valiev at plus money, that might have to be the move, because he opened up damn near minus 200. How can I say no to even money when the bookies are saying this guy is maybe a minus 200 favorite in this spot?
Yeah, and there's a lot of spots on the card where I'm like, I don't agree with the line movement, and I don't really agree with it here. So I'm gonna sit back and wait once again. If Valiev at plus money sounds good to me, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man, right there with you. Right there with you. And hey, I've got some exciting news. We popped the 300 mark, baby. We
Nice.
got 304 live viewers. You guys are all the absolute best. Thank you for degenning out here on a Monday night with me and my boy Brady. You can find him at DFS by the numbers. This is the Die Hard MMA podcast brought to you by Pub Sports Radio and Superbook Sports. Pumped up. Let's go. Love getting those kinds of numbers. Everybody smash that like button for me. Smash it. We've got Nikita Krylov taking on the Bear Jew, Paul Craig, who in this spot, I mean, is anybody coming into a fight feeling better than Paul Craig? He just watched his two sons both compete and win over the last couple weeks. Jamal Hill got a big win. Magomed Ankalaev got a big win. Is there a prouder papa right now than Paul Craig, who submitted both of those men? Nikita Krylov coming in here into the Lion's Den, man. I'm going to keep this one short because, Brady, all you need to know about Paul Craig is he can submit anybody. If you've got a limb, he can take it home. So we are looking at a guy who kind of has one straight path to victory. He's rounded out his striking game just a little bit. He's got some good kicks that he's developed and stuff like that. A little concerning that he's dropped the R word. He's kind of talked about retirement. He doesn't want to be in the fight game super long, which, you know, I respect. He wants to be able to keep his memory intact and stuff like that. He's worried about the long-term consequences. So not the bad kind of retirement talk, but still, when you get that one foot in the grave where you're even thinking about it, it's a little concerning putting your money on somebody like that. Nikita Krylov, a guy that I've never been like ultimately high on, if I'm being honest. He seems just kind of mid-tier everywhere to me. 27 and 8. Tons of experience. Ukrainian, which we saw what happened the last time a Ukrainian stepped inside the octagon with what's going on now. They couldn't be more motivated to get a win than they are at this point in the world. But he hasn't fought in a full year. A grinding offensive wrestler his last couple of fights. I mean, he tried to take down Magomed Ankalaev. He's that kind of committed to the grappling. Grinded out Johnny Walker. He also has some solid kicks, but he's a finisher, man. This is a guy that he goes for broke. He's only got one win by decision. If it's going to the scorecards, he's probably not getting it done. He's been training with Pavlovich, a guy that we'll talk about a little bit later on the card. So another big body, good training partner. He finds himself on bottom a lot, which to me, Brady, is a little concerning. Even though he's supposed to be this like monstrous grappler, he gets reversed. He makes positional mistakes. He lets people on his back, but I will give him props where they're due. There are very few human beings who can survive having Glover Teixeira riding on their back, and that is something that he did. He was able to scramble out and survive with Glover on full backpack alert in that spot, so got to give the man props where it's due. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here, and let's not forget, even though he's got so many sub-wins himself, that's his biggest loss as well. He's got 5 losses by submission. Does the Bear Jew roll again, Brady? Plus 155, the underdog Paul Craig. Minus 180, the favorite Nikita Krylov. Who are you picking on this one?
Dude, Paul Craig's like one of my favorite fighters. Like, how can you not root for Paul Craig? This guy is awesome. The face-offs, he's intense. I like it, and I like this fight as well. One thing I'll say right off the bat, I completely disagree with where they have the fight doesn't go to decision line. This is a fight where you expect it to be like something crazy. Like we saw the Silva Pereira fight last week was like minus 750. And of course that's unplayable, but you know, it's playable here. They have the fight doesn't go to decision at only minus 190. And I just don't get that. You talked about the finish rates a little bit, but Krylov, this guy's a finisher, 97% finish rate, has only 1 decision win in literally 35 professional fights. On top of that, Paul Craig, in 20 fights, he has a 100% finish rate in all his wins. And then in their losses, Paul Craig been finished in all 4 of his losses, 3 by knockout, 1 by sub. And then Krylov has been finished 8 times, 5 by sub and 3 by knockout. So I think somebody's getting finished in this fight. I think Krylov is absolutely live to knock out Paul Craig. But what I noticed about Krylov fights is you take a look at them, and a lot of them, the majority of them, actually hit the mat one way or another. And that's where you kind of get a little bit concerned about laying like minus 190 on Krylov, because you can't count Paul Craig out against anybody. This is a guy that has a win over Jamal Hill, who people are very high on, and rightfully so. He has a win over Magomed Ankalaev, who people are very high on, and rightfully so. And you take a look at Krylov, he has been submitted 5 times. 3 times in the UFC. As of recent, getting submitted by Jan Blachowicz and Misha Serkinov. If this fight hits the mat, if Krylov takes down Paul Craig, if Paul Craig pulls guard, Paul Craig is going to be very live to submit Krylov. If Krylov comes out here, he fights smart and says, hey, I'm going to stuff the takedowns of Paul Craig. I'm not going to go into his guard. I'm going to knock this guy out. Yeah, he should win, but I have a feeling this fight goes to the mat. So from a betting perspective on the money line, it's a clear dog or pass. But I like violence in this fight. I think the violence props are really mispriced. I think it's because Krylov has been to decision in his last 3 fights against Teixeira, Walker, and Ankalaev, but 11 fights before that all finished. So I think there's a finish here, whether it is a Krylov knockout, whether it is a Paul Craig sub. I think Krylov could even sub Paul Craig. I just think there's so many opportunities for some violence here. As far as a pick, I don't know, man. Like, this is a very tough one. I feel like Paul Craig is extremely live. As far as a pick, though, I'll take Krylov. I feel really bad about it because I just can see it now. The fight's going to hit the mat. He's going to get subbed. But I'll take Krylov to hopefully fight smart, keep it on the feet, and knock out Craig. But I just have that weird feeling it's going to the mat here.
I hear you, man. I think the best way I can describe it, Paul Craig is the male version of Mackenzie Dern. Like, there was a run of like 4 fights where I was like, she's got no wrestling. She's got no ability to get this fight to the mat. And if her opponents just stay standing with her, she's going to get wrecked. And she submitted all of them. Like, the second their asses hit the floor, I don't know how, to this day, I still don't know how people inexplicably follow Mackenzie Dern to the floor, and then she gets the win. That's exactly like Paul Craig. Like, what are you doing? You don't play in this man's guard. If you rock him and you knock him down, back the fuck up. Like, why are you following Paul Craig to the floor? Someone like Jamal Hill just learned that lesson the hard way. I simply don't understand, Brady. So I'm with you. I think somehow, some way, this fight finds its way to the floor. It makes no sense that it keeps doing that, but it probably will happen because all Paul Craig fights do. Now, if Nikita Krylov is putting his country on his back and he's saying, I'm winning at all costs, he should strike at range all day and he will coast himself to an easy win. If this thing hits the floor, all of a sudden it gets super interesting. So I'm kind of leaning with the favorite here, Brady, and it makes me sad because Paul Craig is my favorite shit-eating wild man. Like, I love Paul Craig. I've been the guy that people have been yelling about how lucky I am cashing Paul Craig tickets because he wins by submission at the final 2 seconds before the buzzer sounds in the 3rd round over Magomed Ankalaev. Like, I've been that guy that's been there hitting those spots. So I don't really want to bet against Paul Craig, but he's such a liability, man. Like, his fight IQ is something, his last couple fights have gone so perfectly. We can't forget how bad his IQ is when he's in that cage. Do you remember the quadruple spinning back fist?
Yes.
Like, I mean, he threw the same technique 4 times in a row against a power puncher. Paul, buddy, like, I don't have any striking ability, Brady. I've done like 1 boxing camp and I did Muay Thai for about 9 months. I know not to throw a spinning back fist 4 times in a row. Like, what are you doing? So, yeah, man, I'm just, I want to go to war with Paul Craig. I really do. He's my favorite. I love the war paint on weigh-in days, and I want to be cheering for him. But I also think that much like the Moroz spot just a couple of weeks ago, I really think this Ukraine situation is something that matters when it comes to these fighters, when it comes to their mentality, when it comes to what's going on in their world. Krylov wants nothing more than to hoist his country's flag. Like, that is the number one best thing that he can do right now, is to go in there and say, this one's for Ukraine, help my friends, help my family, F you Russia, big middle finger. Like, that's what he wants to do. And I think that can make a significant difference in the way these guys train, in the way that they fight. If it's getting a little sketchy, whether or not they're going to dig deep for that next moment, he's going to pull through in this spot. This is the one. This is his title shot. This is his Super Bowl. It doesn't matter who's across from him. He's going to fight his ass off. So I'm going to go ahead and say Nikita Krylov. I kind of like that Nikita Krylov by knockout. I think we've seen Paul Craig's chin get touched a couple times before. And with him working with a guy like Pavlovich, kind of got to think Krylov striking is going to be on point for Saturday.
Yeah, man, if Krylov comes in here and fights smart, he should probably run through Craig. It's just, I don't know. I feel like if this fight hits the mat and you have a Krylov ticket at -200, it's just going to be sweaty.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, Paul Craig, it's not it's the exact opposite of a puncher's chance. It's a grappler's chance. So like you're gonna be live with a Paul Craig ticket literally up until the final seconds of the fight. But I kind of think that that's still just the way he wins. I don't see him winning minutes. There's no way he wins minutes here. It's sub or bust.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Glad we kind of see the things the same there. AMC here in the chat asking what happened last week, Clint. And AMC, relatively new name here to us, so welcome. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you are new and you haven't been following the show, AMC, I got my ass whooped last week. -9 units. Just a bad night. Narrowly avoided the full-on reverse sweep. I had a couple of live underdogs that I think actually fought pretty damn well. The Dana White Contender Series fade. Tafon Nchukwi was cruising. Brady, real quick, I blame his corner. We didn't talk about it at the beginning of the show. I blame Tafon's corner last week, Brady, because they told him to go out there and get a finish. He was putting on a spectacular, expert striking performance and then decided he wanted to trade heavies with a power puncher because his corner said, go finish this guy. If they had just let him do his thing, he cruises to a 30-27 decision win. I was so angry when his quarter was like, go get him, because that flying knee just didn't need to happen.
Yeah, I was shocked when they said that. I mean, I didn't hear about it until actually this morning. But yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I was, man, the commentary guys were like patting the corner on the back for telling him that, and I was like, no, like I'm literally, guys, just to kind of paint the picture here for you, family vacation, driving the family home. I've got one earbud in, just listening, because that's all I can do. I can't watch, obviously, but I'm listening to the UFC fights, and I scare the shit out of my wife and daughter because I'm like white knuckling the wheel when I hear they tell him to go for the finish, and I'm going, no! They thought we were gonna like get run over by a semi or something. It was not good, but I knew my bet was in trouble after being the absolute right side in that spot. Night went just all downhill from there. All right, anyway, moving on. Sorry, I had to share that one there with you. Shamil Abdurakhimov taking on Sergei Pavlovich, and we just kind of barely touched a little bit on Sergei Pavlovich. This is a guy who is another one of these death touchers, like just crazy, insane power from Sergei Pavlovich. He doesn't hardly ever get out of the first round. 11 out of 14 wins by knockout, 8-inch reach advantage. Only professional loss was to freaking Alistar Overeem in his UFC debut. We talked about people getting jumped into the organization. That was definitely one of them. Dude's got crazy big power. He had 3 canceled fights due to like visa issues and stuff like that, so he hasn't fought since 2019. A little bit of a concern there, but again, it's another guy that realistically should just kind of be in the lab. You know, he could really just be one of these guys working his way through things and getting better when we can't quite see him. Shamil, 20-6, crazy high levels of experience, fresh off getting thrown to Chris Daukaus, the fresh meat of the division type of situation. He's 40 years old, Brady. It's not getting any better. He's a gatekeeper. He's well-rounded. He's always been tough, got good hands, keeps a decent pace. Used to be a guy we kind of thought of as durable. Seems like that might be going out the window a little bit. He's starting to slow down. And this is a spot where I feel like the UFC, once again, is setting up their boy. They know Pavlovich is a guy who's on the rise. They know Shamil is a guy who's trending down. And we just saw Shamil get blasted his head into the third row by Daukaus. Pavlovich can absolutely do that here too, man. I gotta say favorite. I mean, Sergei by knockout, it seems like a bit of a cop-out here, but he's a -310 favorite for a reason. Plus 245 on Shamil Abdurakhimov. This is a guy in Shamil, though, that if he's on point, if he's at his best, he probably avoids the big shot, weathers the early storm, and then drags this fight late and takes out someone like Sergei, gives him that old veteran lesson. But after what we saw against Daukaus last time out, I just don't know if that I don't know if that Shamil exists anymore, Brady. How about you, man? What are you doing here?
Yeah, there's a lot of things going against Shamil. 40 years old, and prior to that Daukaus fight, there's like a 2-year layoff just about for Shamil, and he was dealing with a lot of health problems. I know me and Weezer were talking about it on Stat Diggers. Like he had like a collapsed lung or something crazy happened to him, and we weren't even sure he was going to show up to the Daukaus fight, and he did. Sadly for him, because he got knocked out twice in that fight. I thought the first round could have been stopped, and then Daukaus made it very convincing in the second. So He's coming off of a very brutal knockout, almost getting knocked out twice there. And then he's going against a guy in Pavlovich who, like you said, there is a lot of high hopes for Pavlovich. I mean, it's not often you debut against somebody like Alistair Overeem. I mean, they had really high hopes, lots of hype on this guy, and rightfully so. This guy's a beast. And then he bounces back with 2 knockout wins against guys who are no longer in the UFC, and Marcelo Golm and Maurice Green. But yeah, I like what I see from the dude. I think the 84-inch reach is going to be very important here. He's going to have an 8-inch reach advantage in a fight that I feel like is going to stay on the feet for the entire time. I don't see Shamil taking down Pavlovich, and I just think, Shamil's, towards the end of the road here. Pavlovich in his prime, 29 years old, which is extremely young for heavyweight. He's had 2 years off. Has he made improvements? If he has, that's terrifying because this guy is already very good and very powerful. So yeah, for me, it's Pavlovich. It's Pavlovich, probably a knockout in the first round. I just don't think it's the same Shamil. Like if this fight was a couple years back, Shamil's good. He's pretty good. He's pretty well rounded. It's just, I think he's done. So yeah, Pavlovich is minus 300. It's steep. It's heavyweight fight. But I just don't really see Shamil posing many problems here. Like if I was to bet it, maybe like a Pavlovich knockout prop, but I think the bookies are probably all over that as well.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. It's got to be Pavlovich. It's got to be Pavlovich round 1, Pavlovich by KO. That just seems like the recipe here. Now, I mean, you can see the tides turn quickly in this one. If Shamil somehow gets his grappling going, if he survives that first round, this might be a spot to try to jump on him as an underdog, live betting, that kind of a thing. Because Pavlovich is such a, untested prospect, like you mentioned, his only wins are guys that aren't in the UFC. I'm very hesitant to like pile on him at this favorite price tag, but I feel like he should get it done, man. It's a spot, again, kind of like some of the other spots we've mentioned where I'm not like foaming at the mouth to put my money on him. But when you talk about like when you tie the whole card together and hope you hit that sweet parlay, yeah, I'm going to be on the Pavlovich side. I kind of expect him to get it done here.
Yeah, Pavlovich by knockout is minus 215. Like, come on. I can't play that.
See, that just, it makes it so hard to play something like that, man. Like you got a money line parlay it. That's the only real answer. How are you going to take a finish prop on a guy when you're laying that kind of chalk? It's so gross.
Yeah. And it's terrifying. I know it's terrifying parlaying like heavy MMA, women's MMA chalk, but it's terrifying parlaying heavyweight chalk as well. So probably a pass, but I think, Sergei should get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure, man. I think I completely agree here. And we got a joint smoker in the chat saying Clint is the bookie's best friend, gives back all his winnings. Hey, I only gave back half. Shut up. Next fight up, man. We got Gunnar Nelson taking on Takashi Sato. Gunnar Nelson, dude, this is the card of layoffs. Like this is the card of people who have just disappeared from the organization. I forgot about Gunnar Nelson. I thought he retired. I never expected to see this man again. So he's one of these SBG Ireland fighters. SBG where exciting fighters go to die. Like they are on a rough run right now, man. And he hasn't fought since 2019. We know he's got that, light bouncing on his toes, karate style striking, stands very tall, walks his opponents down. He is explosive, keeps his hands super low, solid grappling. His submissions are slick, man. When he gets on top of people, they are in trouble. He chokes everybody out. 13 of his 17 wins come by way of submission. His last 2 losses, though, were to Leon Edwards and Gilbert Burns. And I mean, we're talking 2 guys that are challenging for the title. Those are his last 2 losses. I know it was 2 years ago, but shit, like it doesn't get much better than that in this division. He landed 3 of his own takedowns on Leon Edwards against the guy that's got a solid wrestling pedigree. You can't argue with something like that. And you look on his Instagram, dude looks like he's in great shape for this fight, and he's not a small man for the weight class. Takashi Sato, 16-4, training at Sanford MMA. Another guy hasn't fought since 2020. He's on a long layoff here. He's got good movement, good, heavy, solid punches, but kind of like Paul Craig, Takashi Sato is a KO or bust guy. He's got 11 of 16 wins by knockout, very low volume, kind of the Asian Sam Alvey, if you will. He doesn't really do much with combos, man, just pot shots here and there every once in a while. basic striking, but his power makes up the difference. You just can't get hit by this guy because if he clips you, you're done. And I'll be honest, man, I got a soft spot for Takashi Sato. I really like this guy. You look on like all of the UFC behind the scenes stuff, his Instagram, his training videos, he always has this giant goofy ass smile on his face. Like everybody's always trying to look hard in the fighter photos and he's over there like, yeah. I love guys like that. He brings such a positive energy. It's always fun for me, man. Takashi's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here. He does have a 75% takedown defense rating, which, if you're going to be a power puncher, that's kind of the way to go. You need to be able to stuff those takedowns. But he gets submitted. That's like the easy, clear path to victory against Takashi Sato is he gets choked out by people like all the time. And my guy Danny's on top of it here. Sato couldn't knock out Baeza. We know Baeza's got those chin issues. And Baeza got his first UFC sub because of it. Man, this is a spot where, again, we're just dealing with another puncher's chance type of situation. I know we've got questions about Gunnar Nelson. I know he's been gone for super long, and SBG Ireland looks like ass right now when it comes to the way their fighters have been in the UFC. But that is the only way I can look is the favorite here in this spot. And he's so damn elusive. I really feel like Gunnar Nelson can win this fight any way he wants to. If he wants to grapple and he wants to take it down, he can get a submission relatively easily. If he wants to strike, I think Takashi's going to have a hard time finding him. I think he can absolutely just point fight his way to a victory. And we know how explosive Gunnar is. If he lands the right shot, I mean, even though Takashi's a super durable dude, he could be the guy that ends up clipping him and knocking him out. Gunnar Nelson minus 350, minus 375, minus 400. That number is climbing. I think he's parlay material, Brady. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I mean, he's taken a long layoff. I'm not picking Sato. I mean, he's taken a long layoff.
I thought we were getting the hot take.
Oh, no. He's taken a long layoff, 2.5 years just about. But my goodness, like the matchup, like on paper, this is Gunnar Nelson all day. It's not even close. Easy submission. And Gunnar Nelson was supposed to fight 40-year-old Claudio Silva. Silva pulled out, I forget why, but in steps in Sato, and he's taking it on short notice. And I don't know why he would take this match. Like, this is the worst possible matchup Takashi Sato could take. I mean, like, if Gunnar Nelson shows up and he is anywhere near the Gunnar Nelson that we saw, against the Gilbert Burns, against the Leon Edwards and Alex Oliveira, if he shows up and looks anything like that, even half the Gunnar Nelson, he should take down Sato and submit him. Sato's takedown defense on paper, 75%. We saw Miguel Baeza was able to get him down and submit him. Like Danny said, that was Baeza's very first submission in his entire career. Baeza's a knockout guy. And then Belal Muhammad was able to take him down in the first and the third round, was able to submit him in that third round as well. And then he was also submitted outside the UFC as well. So I think one takedown is all it takes here for Gunnar Nelson. And I did check the Instagram as well, because that's important. And you are right. Gunnar Nelson is jacked, and I think he looks ready. And if he is ready, he runs through Sato here. Sato, puncher's chance. The dude has power, but one takedown, I think it's over. Gunnar's no joke on the mat. So yeah, the line it's getting wide, but you can't really argue it. I think if Gunnar shows up, he looks like himself, I think he does look that price tag or even wider. So I think I'll attack it in a different way. I think Gunnar Nelson inside the distance is very interesting. Sato's been finished in all 4 of his losses. I think Gunnar Nelson by submission is very interesting. Sato has been finished by sub 3 times. I think the fight doesn't go to decisions. Very interesting. I think one takedown, it's over for Nelson. And if Nelson's not ready, Sato can definitely knock him out. I think there's a lot of ways to play this, but I do lean on the Nelson side. I think he probably runs through him.
Okay. I'm glad we at least agree there. You gave me a little bit of a heart scare when you started off there, man. I do think that I'm probably going to end up parlaying Gunnar Nelson, if I'm being completely honest. Like I said, this is you hit the nail on the head, Brady. You're like, why is Sato taking this fight? He's the Asian Sam Alvey, man. He doesn't say no. He doesn't care who's across from him. Like, he just wants to punch him in the mouth, which we love him for, and the UFC loves him for, but it's such a bad matchup. I just don't see how he wins besides clipping him. And again, if my boy Gilbert Burns couldn't knock out Gunnar Nelson, how is Sato gonna do it? I know MMA math doesn't work, but seriously, like, if Burns couldn't explode into this man and clip him and put him down, we've seen how Burns lands on people. How the hell is Sato gonna do it? I don't see it. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, this is a horrendous matchup for Sato. He's taken it on short notice. Stylistically, it's so bad. It's a step down in competition for Gunnar Nelson. And like you said, he's only been knocked out once, and he's fought killers. So yeah, I mean, it's Gunnar Nelson, man.
Yeah, Genova in the chat saying no more redhead bets, Clint. Isn't my boy a redhead? I'm pretty sure Gunnar Nelson's a redhead, isn't he?
I kind of maybe, I don't know.
Is
Kind of
Gunny a ginger?
blondish, reddish.
Not quite. All right, he's kind of on the blonde side, but
Okay.
I can't wait till the Alpha Ginger's back in action in Bellator because I'm gonna be
go.
all over that redhead. Let's go. Y'all know I got my weak spots. All right, here we go. Paddy Pimblett taking on Rodrigo Vargas. Oh boy, this is gonna be a fun one. Paddy the Baddy is the UFC's newest cash cow. He is the next Conor McGregor, the guy that talks all the shit and then goes in there and does his very damnedest to back it up. And so far has done so, man. I had my questions about Paddy Pimblett. I'll be completely honest. And my guy, Luigi Vendramini, is a fighter who I'm very high on, someone who I'm very excited about. And I had to take that, show me bet on Luigi against a guy like Paddy. Paddy is a grappler, man. He's a wrestler. He's a sick jiu-jitsu player. And he decided to go out there and strike with a guy like Luigi Vendramini. Got hurt, dug deep, came back and wrecked the dude. Like, holy crap. So Paddy's striking is coming along. He's coming along. He's getting better. Got some tall man defense issues. Like, he definitely leaves his chin up there just a little bit, but he's obviously making strides, man. He's obviously doing the right things that it's going to take to get to be where he really needs to be on the feet in the UFC. He just got sponsored by Barstool Sports. That's a big deal. Like, they are only taking the most elitist of athletes. I think it's the first fighter that they've ever sponsored. So that's, you got to think they've got a massive vote of confidence for him if he's the one that's getting hooked up with that kind of a sponsorship. Absolutely murked Luigi. His power is unreal. He's big. He's physical, kind of a bully when it comes to size. His opponent, Rodrigo Vargas, 12-4, short, stocky, tanky style fighter, heavy on his feet. He explodes forward with big power punches, but man, he overextends. He has hard, low kicks, likes to attack the legs, but he's so hittable. He's one of these guys that really relies on his durability, Brady. His only finish loss was in 2013, and it was by submission. He cracked Zhu Rong, the guy that was supposed to be the next big thing, gave him a run for his money. But now we know, looking in hindsight, that Zhu Rong has a hard time when his opponents have, volume. When they come forward and they put the pressure on him, he seems to wilt in that situation, and that's the key to beating that man. I don't know if Vargas is going to have an answer for Paddy Pimblett in this spot, if I'm completely honest. He's willing to play off his back when he gets taken down. He gives up his back when he tries to get back up to his feet. Brady, I'm going to, I love my little Hail Mary degenerate parlays. The submission special is going to be on point this week because I think these boys are getting chokes. I got Paddy Pimblett here. I think he goes back to his grappling roots. I think he gets the submission, reminds everybody what he's all about on the mat. I don't think he wants to play with fire and do the thing on the feet again. If he does, he definitely has the chance of knocking out someone like Rodrigo Vargas, who, like I mentioned, is very hittable and overextends on his punches. But I really think that he's going to shine here on the ground on Saturday and remind people where his roots are. What do you think, Brady? Are you going minus 450 on Paddy Pimblett, or do you think we have a live dog? Rodrigo's sitting about plus 340, plus 360-ish.
Yeah, I don't think he's live, man. I mean, this is just like we talked about last week. This is a terrible matchup for Vargas here. And on top of that, I just don't think Vargas is UFC caliber, and he's 36 years old. I mean, he's only getting older. Where we have Paddy, who I know a lot of people don't like him, but I mean, the guy's good. He's very good, very well rounded, and he's going to be making improvements as well. Vargas, I mean, there's just red flag after red flag. You go and watch his UFC debut against Alex De Silva, and Alex De Silva is taking him down easily. Vargas is showing, little to no resistance in terms of stuffing a takedown. And that's not the worst part. The worst part is he's content to just lay off his back and, throw up submissions. Like, that's not going to work at this level. And that's not going to work against a legit black belt in Paddy Pimblett. So I think, Paddy, he can come out here. He can get takedowns at will. Vargas in 3 fights thus far has a 25% takedown defense. And either, ride him out or eventually get a submission. Paddy's ground game is no joke. We did not get to see it in his last fight, but it is no joke. So yeah, it's a good fight for Paddy. He is, a big favorite. I think rightfully so. Like, what is Vargas's path to victory? Is he going to out grapple Paddy? I don't think so. Is he going to win minutes? I don't really think so. Is he going to knock out Paddy? I think that'd be the one path. But we saw that Paddy, although he's very defensively irresponsible, and hopefully he does fix that. He has a chin on him, so I think Paddy comes in here, takes him down, and probably finishes him at some point in this fight.
Agreed, man. Agreed. And I know there's a couple people in here saying that, Paddy is overrated. That's a square spot, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, I mean, you guys are right, but you also should know me at this point that I'm like the biggest Sean O'Malley hater on the planet. Like, I don't ride these hype trains. I look for opportunities to fade these hype trains. Trust me. And I think the pro has it nailed right here. Fade Paddy spot ain't this weekend. And there will be a spot. There will absolutely be a spot where it's too much too soon and they hype him up and he gets beaten. I just don't think that this is that spot. Vargas is not the guy. So I'm thinking Paddy Pimblett does it. I think he does it in style on home turf. I think that inside the distance is the way to go. And I think by sub is definitely the way that I'm going to be looking once they get that line out here to me. It looks like it's about plus 280 at FanDuel is where it's getting opened up. So I'm probably only going to get my hands on like plus 200 or something like that. But I think Paddy just gets the damn thing done this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be shocked if he lost this fight, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. Completely agree, man. And hey, while we're on the subject of Paddy Pimblett, for those of you who don't know, my guy, MMA Lock of the Night, and myself do another show. We call it the Deadlock Podcast. Usually it's on Wednesdays every other week. And this week it's going to be on Tuesday. So tomorrow we will be doing the next episode of the Deadlock Podcast. It's got its own YouTube channel now. We're not on Locks anymore. We've got the Deadlock YouTube channel. Do me a favor, follow us over there. Tune in for that show tomorrow. It's less gambling and much more, current events, just kind of having some fun, joking about things, talking about current MMA related news and shit like that. So we have a good time with it. Come hang out with us. And Paddy Pimblett is one of my fighter stonks. We've got a game going with Prediction Strike where we're investing in athletes, and at the end of a certain amount of time, whoever's got the most return on their investment with these fighter stocks, essentially. Loser has to do something. I don't think we have the loser has to do what part, but it's going to be embarrassing. So come hang out. And it's going to be tomorrow, not on Wednesday. That's kind of the main point from me rambling. Sorry about that. All right, everybody. We are getting close to the end of this bad boy. Co-main event time. Arnold Allen taking on Dan the Hangman Hooker in what should promise to be an absolute banger. But I mean, when is Hooker not in an absolute banger? I like this fight, Brady. This is a fun fight. Arnold Allen 17-1, coming off a win of Sadiq Youssef, and we've got his opponent Dan Hooker 21-11, making his return to the 145 pound weight class, dropping back down from 155. He is 1-3 in his last 4. Rough times for Dan the Hangman Hooker. City Kickboxing apparently has migrated over to the United States. So that's been kind of a weird thing. They don't like really what they got going on at home base over there with all the restrictions and stuff for gyms and things like that. So it seems like they've moved out to Vegas relatively permanently. He's been in Vegas for like 21 weeks recently. So no more jet lag, hopping countries and stuff like that. Although they're headed to London for this one, but you get my point. He's been cross-training over at Syndicate MMA. This guy knows how to use his length. Fights long. He's got that step-in knee, high volume. Last 3 losses, up at 155 against Islam Makhachev, the uncrowned king, Dustin Poirier, the former champion, and then Michael Chandler, the most recent, title challenger who murked him in the first round with one big shot. What's that fight look like if he survives that first round? Like, those are the kinds of questions that I have with Dan Hooker. Dude is super underrated, going to have a 5-inch reach advantage, and is a monster at 145, Brady. Arnold Allen, very measured, solid flowing striking. He had Sadiq Youssef hurt very badly in round 1, but ended up grinding out a decision. Dude's light on his feet, good movement, cuts angles, really sharp boxing. He's kind of constantly on his bike, though. That was something I noticed, that he's almost always running from his opponent, kind of skipping around, trying to stay at range. Makes you chase him a little bit. He's got a nice active lead left hand, snapping jab. Very defensively solid as Arnold Allen, even though it seems like he could probably knock some people out, always ends up seeming to go to the judges' scorecards. Man, this is a spot, Brady, that I think I'm probably going to get some shit for. We've got a pick'em line here on this fight, and I simply don't understand it. I mean, minus 110 on both sides. I know Arnold Allen is 17-1, but this is a gigantic, drastic step up in competition for him. He's fought nobody near the level of competition of someone like Dan Hooker. And Hooker's only losses are to legitimate title challengers, like guys at the very tip top up a weight class. So now he's got his nutrition straight. He's been talking about how his cut is already going better than it ever has at 145 because he's really like dug into what allows him to get down that far. And he already feels better. He's expecting to feel better on fight night at 145 than he ever did in the past, where again, he's just a size bully. Man, I think everyone has left Hooker for dead way too early. I think he's too young for us to count out, and he's too good for this recent run against nothing but top challengers for us to just be like, he's done. He's done. I'm going to take the buy low spot here. I like Hooker. It's a even money pick'em type of price at this point. Been bouncing around back and forth. It looks like Hooker opened up about minus 115, Arnold Allen minus 105, and it's just been ping ponging its way all week. But I think everyone's super high on Arnold Allen, and trust me, I get it. He's very good, but I don't see where he's got a super significant advantage over Dan Hooker. And I think at 145, Hooker is going to really remind people what he's capable of. So I kind of like the Hooker side here on this one. What are you doing, Brady?
Yeah, so this is one of my unpopular opinions as well, and I was curious to see if we did line up, and we absolutely do.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make much sense to me as well. The one thing is I need to see Hooker on the scales. I need to see him at 145 on the scales. If he looks good, I will be betting Hooker. This is going to be the first time he's fought at 145 in like 6 years. Last time was around 2016 against Jason Knight, I believe. But if he looks good on the scales, I mean, you mentioned a lot of great points, and I thought you broke it down phenomenally. But, you know, Hooker is going to have a 4-inch height advantage, a 5.5-inch reach advantage in a fight where I feel like it plays out on the feet. I know Allen, gets takedowns here or there, but Hooker has very, very good takedown defense. Yes, he got taken down by Islam Makhachev in his last fight, but that's Makhachev. But 78% takedown defense in his career over a large sample size. I don't see Allen taking him down or holding him down. I think this fight does play out at range, and Hooker's going to be the much bigger guy. And on top of that, Allen is so good. This guy is very, very good. The problem I have with Allen, though, is he is so low volume. Like, I go back and look throughout his career, and you mentioned it a little bit, but he has not fought really anybody. I mean, he fought like a Gilbert Melendez who came back after like a 2-year layoff, who was towards the end of his career. He fought a Nick Lentz. He fought a Jordan Rinaldi. I guess the best win of his career is probably against Sadiq Youssef, but I went back and watched that fight, and he's lucky. He's lucky Sadiq Youssef is very chinny, because the first round, I did think Youssef was getting the better of him, and then he ended up hurting Youssef. Ultimately won that round. The second round, I thought Youssef clearly was winning the second round up until that head kick. Youssef actually outlands Allen 18-9. So if he did not head kick, Youssef, he probably loses that round in that fight. And then the third round comes around, and Allen slows down a ton. Allen lands only 2 strikes in that third round, whereas Youssef outlands him 16-2. So I have serious concerns about the output of Arnold Allen. I have serious concerns about, Dan Hooker is going to be much, much bigger. And if that cut is good, if Dan Hooker looks good at weigh-ins, if I can get Dan Hooker at plus money, I'm going to take it. I didn't even talk about the level of competition much, but you mentioned a good part of it. Like, Hooker's fought the better competition. It's not even close. He's lost to very, very good guys, whereas Allen, like I said, his best win is probably Sadiq Youssef, which was a very, very close fight. But yeah, Dan Hooker, last losses, Islam, Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier. You can't fight any better competition than that. So I'm with you. I think it's going to be a very unpopular take this week, but hopefully that unpopular take gets me some plus money.
I am right there with you, Brady. I love that we're on the same page because, yeah, we both backstage before the show started, for everybody, watching, we chatted a little bit. Brady got into the backstage a little earlier than most of my guests do, so we had time to kind of talk, but we never talk about the fight breakdowns. We never talk about our picks. That way all the reactions are, live on camera for you guys. Both of us mentioned having a couple hot takes, and I was crossing my fingers this is one that we'd line up on, and sure enough, here we go. I'm excited to hear that, Brady. I really am, because I think that it's going to be all Arnold Allen money all day. I think everybody and their mom is going to be picking Arnold Allen here in this spot because Hooker has looked so bad and because they're worried he's running back down a weight class and, he's evacuating 155 where he's had nothing. He got mauled by Islam. He got knocked out by Chandler. Like, you couldn't look worse than Hooker has his last couple fights. He hasn't had an opportunity to show any of his skills in his last couple fights. If you get clipped and deaded in round one by a power puncher, okay, it's MMA, shit happens. And you get mauled by, like I said, the future champion, guy that takes you down and, submits everybody early on short notice. He never had a chance to show anything in that fight either. Like, he is so much better than his recent run shows. And I don't know that Arnold Allen is a guy that's going to be able to Islam style out wrestle Dan Hooker. Let's not forget how slick Hooker's submissions are when it goes to the ground. He's not going to be completely safe in that position. And I think the reach is such a big deal. The size advantage for Hooker at 145 is going to be a problem, because I know Arnold Allen has a nice jab. Trust me, guys, I'm not bagging on him. I recognize how good he is. I like his skill set. I like his boxing. I like his jab. But boxing really only works well when you are not at a reach disadvantage. And he's at a massive reach disadvantage in this spot. If he's trying to cut angles, skip to the outside, work his way around, Hooker's going to be the guy landing. Hooker's going to be able to eat him up with kicks and punches. That jab isn't going to work because you're not going to be close enough to your opponent to get it off. So yeah, man, I see too many opportunities for Hooker here to have some advantage. And I don't know that he's going to get the finish. Maybe it goes to decision, but I think it's going to be a pretty clear Hooker victory. I just don't see where he's got the disadvantage in this spot.
Yeah, unless he has like a bad weight cut or something. That's why I'm waiting for the weigh-ins. But yeah, if he looks good, I'm probably pulling the trigger.
I don't blame you for waiting on the weigh-ins. I really don't. But I think that eventually people with deeper pockets than us might get involved, and I kind of want to get the good number. So I might take that leap of faith and jump in a little earlier and get the minus 110 price tag here.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Hey, a couple people asking for the link for the show, so thank you very much. I always forget that I've got the ability to chat things in here on StreamYard. So if you guys do want to check out the Deadlock podcast, first off, we'd appreciate it. There's the link to our new YouTube page right there. Come check it out. It's a ton of fun. All right, everybody, we are headed to the main event of the evening, and you know what that means. That means we've got to hear at least one more word from our sponsors. So sit tight for me. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I am joined by my guy Brady from DFS by the Numbers. We are headed into the main event. Alexander Volkov taking on Tom Aspinall, and what a fight, man. We've got a real legit heavyweight tilt on our hands here for this one. This is going to be a damn good fight and answer a lot of questions, man. Alexander Volkov has long been my dark horse. You guys know I love my Alexander Volkov, and I've been saying how underrated he is. I've been banging that drum. We got the 7-unit bet that I pull out every once in a while when Volkov is on the card, and we've been doing real well riding him in these spots, but he's got a stiff test ahead of him here. Tom Aspinall, maybe the hottest heavyweight prospect that we have ever seen. You know, Chris Daukaus was a guy that everybody was kind of getting behind. I kind of feel like Aspinall's hype is a little bit bigger than his counterpart there, Chris Daukaus, but he's getting his shot, man. This is that time where you got to, feast or famine here at the UFC heavyweight division. That top 5, that top 8, it's a tough place to be at heavyweight. Volkov is 34-9. Aspinall is 11-2. Volkov, I'll be honest, man, had a disappointing last fight. I had the 7-unit bomb on him against Marcin Tybura, and something was not right. I don't know what it was, Brady, but this is the man who exhausted Curtis Blades in a 5-round title fight where he defended like record-breaking takedowns to gas out the wrestler and then started pouring it on himself. Volkov had his mouth gaping open in round 2 against Tybura after defending like 1 or 2 takedowns. I don't know what the hell was going on, but I was so sweaty in that spot, Brady, because the 7-unit bet, not only is it a large bet, the largest bet that I ever make, but it's an undefeated record, something I kind of pat myself on the back for. And I'm sitting here going, oh my God, like if Marcin Tybura of all people is the one that breaks the bank here on me, I'm just going to cry. And luckily, honestly, going back and rewatching the fight, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was live. He was winning the fight, but live, it was close and sweaty enough that I was really scared. Volkov is extremely well-rounded, man. He's a slick kickboxer. He's got good volume, decent power, but definitely more of a decision guy than a knockout guy. He likes to attack the body. Another dude that really works with his pace, likes to bank those, that damage for later rounds, drain his opponent's gas tank. He has good knees in close. He likes that step in knee to the body, and he uses his length and his reach really well. I mentioned the takedown defense, against Blades, like I said, defended like a record-breaking number of takedowns in that spot. This dude is built for 5-round main events, if I'm being completely honest, Brady, because he's a guy that could get, beat for 1 or 2 rounds in a 15-minute fight and slip away, lose a decision. But in 25 minutes, again, not counting his last fight, generally speaking, he's the guy he's the Diaz brother. You want him in round 4. You want him in round 5. He's going to be the guy that keeps going, keeps coming, keeps sticking the punches in your face and doesn't really slow down. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here in this spot. But Aspinall, holy crap, is this guy aggressive. Always coming forward, walks his opponents down, and he is fast. Like for a heavyweight, Aspinall's hands are so fast. He also has excellent shot choices. Like when you watch his last fight against Sergei, the way he popped Sergei apart on the feet, every time the polar bear covered up, Aspinall was hitting the open spot. Like he's controlled aggression. So he's not just blindly aggressive. He's got that little bit of control that lets him really hurt people. He's a deadly finisher with big power, BJJ black belt, and he changed gears and submitted Andrei Arlovsky. Like that's the kind of thing that you got to see. You kind of tip your hat to, that you're like, okay, all right. Like we got you. He looked like maybe he was going to get his first real stiff test. His opponent was going to start to turn things on him. Nope. Shift gears, got the win anyway. Extremely efficient striking. Main training partner is Darren Till, a guy that, admittedly, I don't really think much of. But this guy is relentless when his opponents are injured. Like, if you get clipped by Aspinall, you're getting TKO'd because the ground and pound is something else. He's too fast, never stops punching. He will absolutely get you out of there, but he kind of blows his load looking for that finish. Nobody's really been able to survive it, but I have kind of that sinking sensation that if someone had the right referee, if Tyone was the main event referee and let somebody take an ass beating for about a minute, I think Tom Aspinall wouldn't have anything left in the tank after trying to get that finish. Not that I want to test that theory because, like I said, nobody's survived it yet, but he really goes for broke when he's got somebody hurt. His only 2 losses come in round 2, Brady. One of them, an illegal DQ. He threw an illegal elbow. The second one was only a second amateur fight all the way back in 2013, and it was the only decision that he's ever been to. So that's the one that kind of puts a little bit of doubt in the back of my mind because Aspinall has finished everybody in round 1 or 2 ever since. What you doing here, Brady?
Yeah, probably nothing, man. I mean, this is a very, very tough fight to call because I love Aspinall. I'm very high on this guy. I think he's a legit prospect. Some of these guys get a ton of hype, and a lot of times I don't think it's deserved. This is a guy I think it is absolutely deserved, and it's really weird that they're kind of matching him up against Volkov here because I heard in multiple interviews where he's like, yeah, I want to kind of build myself up. I don't want to, dive deep into the division yet. I want to kind of, take it slow. And then they feed him Volkov here. So, and I kind of would have liked to see that too. I would have liked to see him, fight a couple more fights before getting like a Volkov. But, here we are, big step up of competition. And there's just too many question marks to bet this side, especially Aspinall, in my opinion. And the question mark is, how does he look after 1.5 rounds? Because we know that he is 0-2 so far and when fights go over 1.5 rounds. What happens if he does not finish Volkov within that first round and a half, 2 rounds? And I don't know. I can't tell you. I mean, I don't know how good his cardio is going to be. I don't know how bad his cardio is going to be. But what I will say is in 42 professional fights, Volkov has only 2 knockout losses, which is very impressive. 42 heavyweight fights, only 2 knockout losses. And the last one coming to one Derek Lewis in a fight where he was winning, 15 minutes and 49 seconds, and then gets knocked out. And that is Volkov's only knockout loss in the UFC. And he's fought, very hard-hitting guys as well. Guys like Greg Hardy, Blaze was on top of him for 25 minutes. Walt Harris hits very hard as well. And he's able to survive all of that. Could Aspinall come in here and starch Volkov? I mean, maybe. Aspinall's legit. I think this guy's hands are very fast. He's going to have a speed advantage. It's just what happens if this fight gets extended, and I don't know, and that's why I can't bet it. But Volkov's going to be the much more experienced fighter. It's not even close. He's fought the much better competition. It's not even close. And a reason I say I want to see Aspinall get built up a little bit more because I'm not completely impressed with the guy's resume thus far. He went in, he beat Jake Collier, who was coming off of a massive layoff, like a 3-year layoff, something crazy like that. Jake Collier's first fight at heavyweight. And I know people are very weirdly high on Jake Collier now. Collier is 2-2 in the heavyweight division since moving up. The wins come over Chase Sherman, who I think's been cut, and then Jean Vellante, who I think retired, and then
future champ Brady, future champ Jake Collier.
Yeah, I see that, and they're saying about Parker Porter as well. I don't know if people are being serious. I hope they're joking, but yeah, I know they're joking. But yeah, I'm just not impressed with Jake Collier in that win in general. Alain Badeau, I mean, I called this guy the worst fighter in the heavyweight division. I got to take that back a little bit because he did look better than I thought he would.
He was so close, Brady.
Yeah, he was so close. I know. I got to take that back a little bit. I now think who's the worst heavyweight? Harry Hunsucker is the worst heavyweight in the division there. So not Badeau as well, but still. And then he beats Andrei Arlovsky. That's probably my favorite win from Aspinall. He was able to go in the second round, take Arlovsky down and submit him. And then he beats Sergei Spivak. I think we got to look into that fight a little bit more and see that Spivak did come in on a couple of days' notice, and Spivak landed 0 strikes where Aspinall knocked him out in the first round. So this is going to be a big step up in competition. I got to go Volkov. I mean, Aspinall, I think he's very live to win. I think he has the higher ceiling, and I think he could be future champ. I know people are saying he could be future champ, and I agree with that. It's just I haven't seen it yet, so I can't pick him. I can't bet him. I have not seen him get extended where I know for a fact that Volkov, he can go 3 rounds. He can go 5 rounds. And you talk about the Tybura fight a little bit, and there are some rumors. Apparently, he had COVID or something. His wife was in the hospital.
Looked like Brady.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything, but watching the fight, I was like, he's looking like he's just sucking air. Something's got to be wrong with the lungs. And then I was like, oh my God, did he get COVID?
Yeah, he had COVID or something. His wife was in the hospital. I think he might have had a kid as well. There's a lot going on with Volkov.
He had his baby.
Yeah, so I mean, that was the only fight we've seen Volkov slow down, right? So I think he'll be fine here. I gotta pick Volkov. Not sure if I'll bet it because I am so high on Aspinall, but there's just question marks that I need to be answered, and I'm going to hopefully see get answered here unless Aspinall starches them. So I'm going to pick Volkov, and I don't know if I'm going to bet it, though. So, yeah, I'll go Volkov, but Aspinall, this dude's legit.
Yeah. Brady, you mentioned a lot of stuff. I'm glad that you got on some of those talking points. I mean, first off, everybody knows my love of Volkov, and I talked about it a little earlier, especially when I'm feeling good about a fighter, when I've had success with a fighter. I like to go back to that well. You can only bet a streak once. They talk about that in baseball, basketball, all the other team sports and stuff. When a team is hot, you ride the hot hand. And once that streak comes to an end, then it's over, then you can get off, but you just keep backing them until it stops. If the train hasn't pulled into the station yet, why get off? You don't want to get on the train late. If it's a bad matchup, if it's a spot where you shouldn't be backing them, if you're free rolling because you've been with them the last 5 fights, you might as well pull the trigger blindly and hope they do it again. But don't jump in feet first if you haven't been on the train. I'm on the train with Volkov, man. I've been cashing left and right. He's made me a lot of money. He's probably my number one, earner when it comes to the way that I gamble and bet on him. He just keeps coming through for me. So I'm already overly biased on Alexander Volkov. And then there's just a couple things coming up here. I mentioned the Dawkins fight. The heavyweight division, Brady, is so deep. We talk about how heavyweight fighters can mature, these guys can get up into their 40s before they really call it quits because they've always got that power. It's a lot easier to go longer as a heavyweight. So it's tough to crack that top 8, that top 10. You got to be something to really get up into that ballpark. And while I do think that Aspinall has a massive future ahead of him, while I do think he's extremely skilled, and again, another guy that might have a higher ceiling than Volkov, he's so young. He's so new in the game. He's so fresh. He doesn't have that veteran experience that a guy like Volkov does. And Volkov's been kickboxing forever, like 30 plus professional fights. Like, holy shit. He's kickboxed with everybody. You mentioned the chin stuff. Volkov's never been chinny. He got knocked out by 2 of the biggest power punchers that we have ever seen. And I still, to this day, I cashed a ticket on Derek Lewis, man. Before I was on the Volkov train, I was on the Lewis train, and I had him that night. Holy crap, what a lucky punch. Like, Volkov absolutely thought the fight was over, Brady. Like, when he completely just drops his guard, he's done. The fight's over. And Derek Lewis saw his chance and went for it. That's the only reason that knockout happened. If they run that back, it's just Volkov even more impressively the second time around. That knockout doesn't happen again. So I'm not concerned with his chin or anything like that. Now, granted, Aspinall is a guy that seems to have the kind of speed and power that can knock pretty much anybody out. But I think the kickboxing experience of Volkov is going to keep him in this one. And even if he gets clipped by 1 or 2, I don't think it's going to be something that'll be much of a bother. And then is Aspinall going to shift gears and take him down? I don't know about his gas tank. Like, he's a BJJ black belt, sure, but can he out wrestle Volkov? I don't think so. And recency bias is such a big thing when it comes to betting, Brady. A lot of people are going to be looking at the last 2 fights for Volkov. He got beat by Gunnar, and then he looked like shit against Topuria. That Topuria fight was such an outlier. Volkov has never looked that bad before. So I am inclined to kind of crumple that one up and toss it out because I don't think that that's what Volkov looks like, generally speaking. He looks way better than that more often than not. So I'm expecting him to look better on Saturday. And then the Gon fight, here's something you're going to see a lot of comparisons to like Gon and Aspinall. And guys, that's just like nowhere even close to the same story. So Gon and Volkov both landed over 100 significant strikes in that fight. That was actually a much more competitive kickboxing fight than people give it credit for. Now, don't get me wrong. Gon clearly won the thing. I'm not making an argument for Volkov to win it, but he was in that fight. He was in that fight. He was scoring. It was well fought, in my opinion. And Gon is kind of John Jones-esque, where he has those physical cheat codes. He shut down the offense of Volkov. He chipped away at him for 25 minutes. That is nothing that Aspinall can do. Aspinall causes car crashes. Like, this guy's going to come forward. He's going to look for big shots. If you say that it's going to be a 25-minute kickboxing match, I'll lay even more money on Volkov because I see no way in hell that Aspinall can out kickbox Volkov for 25 minutes. So I'm on Volkov, folks. Like, long story short, I'm on Volkov because yes, Tom Aspinall can win by knockout. And yes, I will get roasted by the chat and by Twitter and by Instagram, by everybody. If Aspinall wins by round 1 knockout, that is his most likely path to victory. That maybe happens. And y'all can roast the shit out of me if it does. But if that doesn't happen, Volkov has more experience. He is the better striker. He's got better gas that we've seen, proven. Maybe Aspinall has better gas, but we have no idea to know that as of right now. And I've seen him trusted for 25 minutes. I don't know how you don't take the buy low spot here on Volkov, Brady.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And there's just question marks on Aspinall. Like, if you have an Aspinall ticket, how are you going to feel if this fight goes over 1.5 rounds? I think if Aspinall wins, it's probably going to be early on. But who has knocked out Volkov early on? I mean, Lewis knocked him out in the 3rd round. I think Mokaev knocked him out like almost 10 years ago. Other than that, nobody's knocked him out. So, I mean, maybe he does knock out Volkov. I don't know. I think this does get extended. I think we get some things answered. And I think Volkov is probably going to look better as the fight goes on.
I agree. I think Volkov has a chance to potentially finish him late. Because, again, I'm not a believer in Aspinall's gas tank just yet. You got to show me. I mean, and that's all this bet is. This is a show me spot, Brady. Yeah. Aspinall, again, he might be legit. But here's the thing. I was on the Chris Daukaus bandwagon, and I immediately jumped off when he fought the Black Beast. Because I went, guys, this is the next level. Like he has finally hit at that peak where he's not facing the mid or the low tier of heavyweight, and he's fighting a legitimate heavyweight talent. I don't think he can pass that test, and he shouldn't be favored. The bookies learned their lesson. This is a pick'em. We're not seeing Aspinall as a giant favorite yet because the money's coming in, but they didn't open Aspinall at minus 175. I'll bet you if they did, people would still bet him. So the bookies at least are wise to it. I think it's the same situation. I think Aspinall needs more seasoning. I think Volkov is going to give him that veteran lesson. Does he knock him out? I don't know. Maybe not. Does he grind him out for a 25-minute decision win where he takes him into deep waters and is just the slicker striker? Probably. That's maybe the way to go. But again, with Tom Aspinall potentially having a sketchy gas tank, you can't count out that late finish. And at even money, now Aspinall's down to about a minus 120, minus 125 favorite with the money all coming in on him. I'll take plus 100 on Alexander Volkov. I'll take plus 105. So I'm going to sit tight just for the minute and see how much further this will go up. Because if I can get plus 110, plus 115, plus 120, like I'm on Volkov, folks. Give me the dog money. Give me that big Russian dog money. I'm here for it.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't see how anybody could bet Aspinall at chalk. If I was to bet Aspinall, I'd probably bet him, round 1, round 2, round 3. I wouldn't lay chalk on the guy, and also FanDuel Sportsbook, by the way, has like Aspinall to win in rounds 1, 2, or 3 at plus 240. I think would be the way I look at it if I was an Aspinall better. But yeah, I'm more so on the Volkov side myself. I mean, this is a big step up of competition for Aspinall. This is not, Jake, the prototype Collier. This is Alexander Volkov, a legit top heavyweight in the division.
Hear you, Brady. Completely agree. And Dirty Reg with a good comment here. If it goes to the scorecards and it's at all close, Volkov backers are finished. You're probably right, man. You're probably right. Fading the hometown crowd, you can always get screwed by the judges that way. But I mean, it's a spot I gotta take. I think Volkov in general has more and better volume than Tom Aspinall does. So if it goes to the judges' scorecards, if I'm being honest, I don't expect it to be particularly close. This is a spot where I think Aspinall is going to have to win this based on like knockdowns. He can't out kickbox Volkov, and I'll go on record saying that he's not going to out kickbox Volkov. It's going to be a big power shot that gets it done, or he's going to lose. So, yeah, baby, here we go. Riding my Russian, my favorite Russian. I'm going to be on Volkov on Saturday. Folks, that is UFC London. We broke the whole damn thing down for you from a betting perspective. My guy Brady hanging with us here on Pub Sports Radio. Brady! Thank you so much, man. It was fun hanging out and talking fights with you again. It sounds like we had a couple disagreements, but we lined up on, I think, the important spots, the spots I plan on betting.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. This card is phenomenal. I can't wait for it, and can't wait to make some money as well.
Hell yeah, man. This one should be a ton of fun. And don't forget, guys, with this one being the London card, obviously, we're going to do morning fights. So a mimosa and waffles instead of fireball and popcorn for everybody, because this one should be starting a decent bit earlier for the people. Brady, let the people know where they can find you. Where can they follow you, find all your content, all that good stuff?
Yep. Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. Here on YouTube, DFS by the numbers. I'm on Pub Sports Radio as well. Me and Uncle Weezy go live Sunday nights for Stat Diggers. And then also check me out on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. Channel we just started to build up, doing a ton of content over there as well. So yeah, thanks again, Clint, for having me on. I'm feeling pretty good about this week, especially after talking over with you.
Hell yeah, Brady. Me too, man. Me too. Need the bounce back week. So I'm glad that we were able to shake through that. I think we got some good spots to make some money here. Shout out to my guy, Nope's Corner. Love you too, buddy. Hey, thank you everybody so much for hanging out with us here on the podcast. Really appreciate it. We've done a good job of building like a super positive environment here when it comes to gambling. Sometimes Twitter and bettors especially can be some of the most toxic assholes you've ever seen, but you guys are awesome. Like 90% of the diehard fan base is absolutely awesome. So I love coming here, talking to you guys, even coming off of a really, really bad and semi-embarrassing losing weekend like last week. Always picks me up to talk it through with you guys and hang out in the chat. So thank you all so much for showing up and chatting with us. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here doing this kind of a show. So make sure you guys go out there, stay positive, surround yourself with the right kind of people, because you, believe it or not, your mom and dad kind of knew something they were talking about when you were a kid. You are the people that you surround yourself with. So if you surround yourself with a bunch of assholes, you're probably going to be an asshole. So surround yourself with I'm suddenly Mike Tyson, nice, positive people, and you're going to be a nice, positive person. Hey, Brady, real quick, before we go, man, shout out to you for your weight loss journey, dude. You have been doing some incredible work. You look amazing. And I know we've all said it on Twitter, but it needed to be said on video. So keep kicking ass there, dude. You're doing a great job.
I appreciate that, man. I'm at like 62 down. I don't know
Crazy.
how far I'll go down, but I'm gonna keep going.
Dude, you're looking good. So as long as you decide to do it, like just happy that you're, being healthier and especially happy that you're happier. You know what I mean? You can tell that you're enjoying yourself much more. So that's good shit, man. I love saying
Yeah, thanks,
that.
man. It means a ton.
Yeah. All right, everybody. That's the show. Y'all have a wonderful week. Good luck on your degenerate action. Keep it tuned right here, Pub Sports Radio. We got the best personalities on the internet. We'll be back for the Total Takedown Thursday and, of course, the undefeated post-weigh-in show on Friday. We got some ground to make up this week. Let's freaking do it. Let's roll.